welcome to Midweek Geek. If anybody is watching, beyond the 5 people we have here in the stream, we've got a nearly full panel already. We have, beside me, Eli, otherwise known as Elfbait, Sean, Monsieur Major's Musings,
Hello.
Bear, the Gen X GM, and Oscar, who we know as the Whipcracker Extraordinaire, Saxius.
I'm back.
He's back. Yes, he's back. You summoned him.
He got fed up with us going off topic.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Too long.
So here we go.
I demand AI intervention.
Is my stream bot working yet? It doesn't appear to be working yet. I haven't had a message saying it's working yet. I have just been messing with it, so it might take a few minutes to kick in. I've added a couple of new ones, but no, the stream bot doesn't appear to be working quite yet. Anyway, I see lots of people are in chat already, which is absolutely marvelous. Hello, Full Metal Dragon. Hello, Halakar. Hello from the Hilton, Andy Houston and Curtis Thompson and R.W. Bishop. So, anybody else who's here, say hello. It would be rather nice. We have a topic for the stream, and that is about high-level gaming versus low-level gaming. Slan's about, and Crafting Gamer is about. Welcome, chaps. Okay, so let's just for Saxius coming back, let's just get the Saxius comment up. There we go. If ever you want to, if you ever want to summon the Saxius effect, it will compel us to do that.
The power of Saxius compels you.
Absolutely. We also have this one now.
No, we don't.
Is it not appearing yet? There we go.
Thank you so much. Right.
There we go. And we have this one as well. We have this one. There we go. There's that one.
It doesn't appear to be working.
It's got a link in it, which might be why it's filtering it out. Okay, we'll have to. Oh no, we'll have to ignore that one because it's blanking out the link, which is annoying. Right, what other ones have I put on there? There's the Demilich one. That's from yep. I did put this one a while ago because it's to do with my guts. And what else have I added? Oh yes. No one spotted this one. This one's been lurking for a few weeks.
Oh, drink.
It's broken. Oh, wait.
There
There we go. Yep.
So there we are. There we are. Right. I'm going to leave the chatter about our recent games to later on to our talking nonsense part of the stream. I think it might be better off back there rather than at the start. We're going to talk about high-level gaming versus low-level gaming, which systems lean one way or the other, the different ways in which the game certain games play at high and low level, the way the different approaches players have to take, possibly adventure design and that sort of thing. But firstly, I want to ask a couple of questions to everyone on the panel. We've all played AD&D, haven't we?
Never heard of it.
What is
all
this?
played AD&D.
Is that a new one?
Yeah, who makes that? Is that from Chaosium?
I don't know. So, what is the best level to play AD&D at? Give me one level. Your favorite level. You like it level 10.
5.
Yeah, 5 to 7, that range.
Yeah.
8+,
Depending on
yeah.
the class.
8+.
Yeah.
I'm going to say level 5 as well. I think level 5 is about right. Okay.
Hey, what do I win?
Nothing. Now, we have all played 5th edition as well. And assume it's the only game in the world and you have to play it. What is the best level to play 5th edition at, in your opinion?
The low levels. I actually find that the lower the level in 5e, the better it plays. So
Oh,
Level
I'm gonna
3.
stick to my 8+.
8+.
Because, yeah, I'll stick to that.
Okay, Sean.
Oh, I'm in agreement. Low levels, low to mid tier for 5e. It gets just so unwieldy the higher you get.
You know how Bears often
and
said
it does
that
that fast.
you know how Bears often said on his streams that me and him never agree on anything. You said level 5 for AD&D and level 3 for 5th edition.
Is there?
You're correct on both.
I know.
You are correct on both.
That's twice a day, by the way. So now I'm officially the broken clock. From here on out, nothing's wrong
absolutely,
here.
absolutely. So apart from Saxius, he was the contrarian there, we had a different opinion on what the optimum level to play two very different games was, which gives an idea to the sort of feel we like from our games. Third or fourth level is roughly the sort of level in 5th edition where the characters are starting to get that 5th or 6th level feel from AD&D, in my opinion.
No.
You don't think so?
No, I said yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I mean, mainly because 5e doesn't let any character even really fulfill itself until like 2nd or 3rd, where you get to choose your subclass.
Yeah. But in terms of what you can achieve in the game as a character, it is very similar to AD&D, sort of level 5 or 6, around level 3.
You're more powerful at a low level.
Absolutely.
By far.
Absolutely. Right. So, Saxius, I want you to explain your reasoning by level 8 to 10-ish on both of those.
Okay. So when it comes to 8+, that's usually where you start going into, name characters. And at that point, you've had a good chunk to sort of build up those characters. That would have been, for me, wonderful harvesting time to sort of gather up things and get information. And at that point, I can really start bringing out major hitting plot events that I would have been building up. At that point, it's the characters are fully developed, both in terms of a role-playing perspective. You're now establishing, holds, keeps, lands, and you have got some serious power beneath your characters that you can go out and you can do some relatively awesome things. And I can equally so also throw out a lot of powerful enemies that will make for some rather epic outcomes. When it comes to the 5th edition games, again, it's the similar mentality of at that point your characters have got a lot of things at their fingertips. And whereas in 5th edition, you can't, there is still a challenge level, and you can still sort of you have to build your way up there. And I have found in the couple of 5th edition games that I've run, when you've come to these points within the stories or within the modules, the players are invested. There is a genuine buy-in. So when I say that I'm picking those levels, you have to remember everything that you would have been putting in as a player, achieving that, because I would have been making you work up to those levels, and that's the point where me as a DM, I see the payoff. That to me is why those are the golden levels where I see the return coming back from the players and all the months, if not the year of investment into the game, sort of accumulates into this boiling point where it's very enjoyable for me.
Okay. And you don't have any issues with creating sort of challenging situations for characters of those sort of levels?
I have not experienced that. That's down to the groups that I might be running for. When it comes to, for example, 5th edition, yeah, I know that at that point the players are going to have some serious firepower. Yeah, the relatively mundane fights are going to be bathed aside, but that's how I see that it should be. Most encounters should be relatively easy up until a certain point where you start facing serious encounters. Well, at that point, I, as the DM, I can also start playing the same game or the same mechanics that the players are doing, and then that's where the challenges are. But reality also is that I find that the players create the challenges for themselves more than it's work for me, because I've often found that it's the players who decide to make decisions throughout the campaign or up until that very point, that then sort of that either backfires or isn't thought out just enough to avoid me, finding a quick loophole or finding an area that I can quickly, counteract issues with, or potential find ways to challenge the players with.
So do you think the players are in a way more invested because they realize they're controlling their own destiny now?
Well, yeah, at that point, that's often how I've been building many campaigns, that once you start reaching into these higher leveled points, that's where, it is, you're reaching the penultimum. And at that point, the players have worked, put in blood, sweat, and tears to reach these periods. And they are seeing the end of the campaign as well. And they want that ending that they desire. So that's why you see I found that I've seen a really high payoff, both in terms of the players leaving the tables with just smiles across their face, as well as just the genuine excitement of coming into the games themselves. And that's at least from what I've experienced.
Well, that is a fair point. I mean, and it largely depends on what you want to see from your players and what your players want to experience at the table. My idea that, if I was going to say, do I prefer low-level gaming versus high-level gaming? I mean, fifth level for me is the sweet spot for AD&D and basic D&D and all versions of THACO D&D. And the reason for that is it's that point where the fighter still has a significant impact. When the fighter and the mage are around 5th level, the thief is probably 6th level, so you probably would take that into account. But the cleric is starting to get some influence, and of course that is the level where the mage's spells take a turn for the better. So that for me is the level at which everyone in the party can really contribute on a mechanical level an equal amount. Plus, the characters are now robust enough to at least, if you throw an encounter that turns out to be too difficult at them at very low levels, it can really go south very quickly. At sort of 5th or 6th level, that's where they can sort of take a round of battering to understand when it's time to run and act accordingly. But they're not at a level where they can pretty much overpower anything, because your mage will still have low teens hit points and will still be running around with an armor class of 9, 10-ish, depending on how generous you've been with items. Your thieves are going to have about similar amount of hit points, and yes, their backstab has just got better, but it's still very situational. It's only really the fighter that is the one who's going to be able to walk into any low-level combat and go, ha, no problem. The others have really got to start thinking about it. But for me, that's the level where, as a DM, you've got the most flexibility, I think, in terms of what you can pit them against.
No, I can absolutely understand where you're coming from. Like you're saying, for you, it's the flexibility that you're looking at. When you are in those level ranges. My perspective when I was looking at the question was, where is the biggest payoff? And that's usually when you are at this point where the players look at it and go like, I have an epic character because I have made it. I have built this. I have overcome these challenges. Here I am at the penultimate part of this entire story. Okay. Let's go. Let's kick some.
How's about this for a satisfying payoff as a DM? Your mage in the party found a scroll with a single 3rd level spell on it while adventuring at levels 2 or 3. And that spell was Fireball. And that player has been waiting and waiting and waiting for that moment where they can scribe the spell and potentially learn it. they pull out their percentile dice, and they fail. Sorry, on an evil level, that appeals to my nasty streak, but it's those moments where specifically classes like the mage really start to dig into the depths of these spells they've been finding along the way, and really starting to think about how they're going to fill their books. Anyway, that's it's me and Oscar have been talking all the time. Any input from you, chaps?
For me, I feel like high level play is honestly not as entertaining as a GM. I've heard a lot of people go, well, you can get really creative. I'm like, but that's part of the problem is I feel like the payoff for the creativity lessens the higher the level goes. Down low, realistic, believable, non-adversarial challenges are still a challenge to the players.
That is
but
true.
At a certain level, you just start having to heap on assholery to actually challenge your players. It's like, all right, well, here's a 16th red dragon in 5 rooms. Yeah. Or this unbelievable puzzle that, some Mensa, member is going to have to come in to, figure out. And I had to steal from a Mensa member to actually put it into the game.
You do get to a level where when you're thinking about scenario creation, you're thinking of ways to stop them bypassing it too easily.
And that's the other thing. At a certain, once the wizard gets up there, he gets to do all the really amazingly cool spells. But at that point, you're having to do this weird process as a GM. Like, okay, well, I do this. Well, then the wizard can do that. So I got to make sure that I have this. It's like my brain has to be this Rube Goldberg device to actually manage to get the party to have a challenge.
Yeah, because you want to challenge the players, don't you? I mean.
Yeah, it's a game. Otherwise, why are we playing? Unless we're just rolling dice to kill shit. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the older school mentality is that the games are there to as much, if not more, to challenge the players than the characters. And to keep that balance, you need to have ways to make the players think rather than just have them pull out the same old spell and just walk straight through it over and over again.
I'm seeing some of the comments that came through based on what I was saying, and it's not that it devolves into combat, but let's be honest, D&D pushes combat more than anything else as far as the game goes. The rules themselves support combat most, more than anything else. I mean, yes, you can come up with fun, creative encounters, and there can be all sorts of social stuff, but at that point, you're not using the game so much as you are just interacting with your players, because as written, D&D doesn't do a lot to provide a framework or infrastructure or a game to play around those non-combat, non-statistical interplays. So.
And something I have noticed as you go up through the levels, that more and more it becomes a battle to stop the players getting all the answers to all the problems from the character sheet. I want them to get the answers from there rather than from their powers on the character sheet. And because they've got more powers, they start looking at the character sheet more and thinking that that's what they need to be doing. Anyway, somebody.
Oh, good. Sorry.
Somebody did mention, what about the sweet spot for 3.5 edition?
Level 6.
Hmm?
Level 6.
It's
You
not
reckon?
starting.
Level 6 is the sweet spot for 3.5.
It's on my bookshelf, sitting there unopened.
Is this thing on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Just seems like I'm talking and Eli's going on about his bookshelf.
For me,
I'm talking about how I'm just basically shitting on 3.5. So
For
that's
me,
fine.
the-
I shit on it
for
too,
me, the
but if you're
3
gonna
point-
play at 6 is the perfect level.
yeah,
For me, the sweet spot for 3.5 is the dustbin outside.
Yeah. You guys are all edgy. I get it. What a bunch of edgelords. So to respond to something Eli said earlier, we mean it's just a game. Sir, I declared Blackleaf dead, and that was the end of that. Do you understand, sir? This is real life, okay? I'm finally learning real spells, okay? And I'm going to use them to ensnare the mind of my... Oh, wait, my parents are dead.
well,
Never
that's
mind.
fine.
Okay,
You and your
so...
little chick books.
my chick tracks, thank you.
Excuse me.
Secondly, okay, so here's why it's
that going
5 for
to-
AD&D, and congratulations on that. Good stuff. bro.
Mage.
Yep.
This
Thank
one's
you,
for
all
you, isn't it?
ones. That one came out on my side. Yeah.
Yay.
Nice one. Nice one.
That happens when we do this. So number one, 5, because the players are finally at a point where they can be tougher, but they're not so tough that the things that challenge them at first level aren't still potentially a threat to them to some
Yeah.
degree. They're starting to take that step into the larger world of movers and shakers. And look, you can keep playing. You can go to high levels. There's great stuff. And that's where 5e falls down. AD&D has a metric shit ton of high-level adventures and things you can do that are well-written, interesting. We always keep bringing up the Caverns of Soft Tank. You know, we keep bringing
Against
that
the
up. all time.
Giants, Vault of the
You know,
Drow,
there's
classics.
Tons of stuff you can do. 5e, boy, they really got that level 1 to 10 down pat, don't they? Like, they've covered the crap out of level 1 to 10. It's awesome. Oh, level 11. Well, now
You're on your own.
Good luck. You know, go disrupt the ordering of the giants or something. Have fun. Bye.
It's almost as if they've admitted that the system breaks down after level 10.
They have, though, haven't they? Finally admitted that? Didn't they finally admit that publicly? That like it's kind of broken after level 10.
I'd
It
say
did come
so.
out and basically said that the new focus of 5th edition is level 1 to level 10. The direction, the business direction is now that they're going to be focusing specifically on those because the amount of the feedback that they received throughout the years of games going beyond level 10, you know, into the teens and so on, was very minuscule. There was just not enough players aiming for that. It was very much early stuff and then somewhat towards the end.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, I've said my piece. Good night, all.
Bye.
Anyway, we don't. I mean, as this super chat says, we are talking about playing class level systems. Not all games have a level system. I do actually have I'm a heathen here. That is a glass of wine. That was a full glass of wine at the start.
Why isn't that in a wine glass there, John?
Because I can get more in that glass.
You can just get a bigger wine glass, like a big
I haven't
brandy
got any
snifter or
big
something,
wine
right?
glasses. My wife doesn't trust me with big, fragile glasses. I'm only allowed to handle these chunky, thick ones that will bounce on the floor.
It sounds like she knows you very well.
Anyway, so when you're talking about games which don't have levels, there's one for me that springs to mind, and I'm going to drink now. Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu. And there is no such thing as high-level gaming in Call of Cthulhu. You could argue that Pulp Cthulhu is a slightly more powerful version, but it's still very deadly.
Yeah.
And I think one of the beauties of Call of Cthulhu is the fact that characters, yes, their skills get better, but their hit points never do, and their sanity only gets worse. So the characters start off a normal person and end up in a wheelchair, their dinner dribbling out of both sides of their mouths, and a pool of wee forming beneath their backsides. And that is the beauty of Call of Cthulhu. Anyway, other systems, though, that are more skill-based. I don't have a lot of experience with skill-based systems other than Call of Cthulhu. MERP is a hybrid between class and skills. And for me, I feel the sweet spot for that is going to be around level 3. None of my player characters have got to level 3 yet, but they have taken down a couple of decent level trolls with clever play at level 1 and 2. So there is this combat spiral, the stun spiral, and if you can be the ones to trigger it on the opponents, then you're going to win the fight. If the opponents trigger it on you, you're dead. Just start defending yourself or leg it. That's it. But level 3 seems to be about right in terms of just getting the skills to the levels where you have an adequate chance of triggering that stun spiral on the opponents, and I can really start thinking about sending more trolls and maybe whites and things like that against them. So I don't know for certain yet, because when I've ran campaigns of it in the past, my players have rarely got past level 1, and this is the first time I've run a campaign where the majority of the party have reached level 2. So we're still learning. So non-level based games, which ones have you guys played, and how well have they reacted to skill gains in terms of the way the game feels?
All the non-level games I played were generally one-shots, so we never got to see it long term. I was in a Shadowrun campaign for a brief period, but again, not long enough to see the growth.
Right.
Go ahead, Bear. You started.
Okay.
First.
Well, progression's always slower in those games anyway, and this idea of high-level play doesn't really exist in most of them. You just get more competent as you go, or more diverse in your abilities to do things. But ultimately, I've never played a skill-based fantasy game, so I can't tell you. But I can tell you from things like Cyberpunk or Star Trek from FASA, or even any of the Star Trek games, skills. You don't suddenly find yourself as being, I'm going to walk on water, move that mountain, and then go to 5 different planes for lunch. Like, it's just, high-level D&D is its own specific insanity.
Yeah. Class-based systems that I've played are non-class-based. I mean, the only one that I can think of that does get out of control based on its skill progression that I've played is D6 Star Wars. If that goes on too far and those die pools get too high, there's some stupidity that's happening in that game. And your ability to resist damage also goes up with those skills.
Right.
But the one thing, skill-based games, evenly with Cyberpunk, where you can wire the crap out of your character, there's a built-in limit to that because you've got your humanity. That's a thing you have to worry about. But also the combat system in there is so lethal that even when you're armored up and skill wired, and you've got your high skills going, you're still vulnerable. I mean, you can still.
Which game was this?
Cyberpunk.
Oh God, yes.
But before that, I was mentioning D6 Star Wars. How once that campaign goes on long enough, those die pools, those die scores get too high. It does get a little insane, and your characters become pretty.
I got to take umbrage with that, not because I want to disagree with you or be the contrarian. It's just I ran a lot of Star Wars D6, and I never saw that happen.
Oh, I didn't. I saw that happen all the time.
I saw people just waste their CP on rolls because they never wanted to fail, so they barely had anything left to bump up their characters, which is a whole other beast. When you have XP is also your life-saving mechanic and your character creation mechanic. Like, it gets a little messy there, but I never saw it get up to those levels.
Yeah,
I've
our
always
group
heard
was
of the
very
legend of the 10d6 blaster shot, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, our group was very stingy with their CP. They didn't burn it and play a lot because they were all about getting their characters up there. I mean, we had one guy in our group who had like a 15 die blaster.
The hell?
Because we'd been playing that campaign for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to change out his character. I bounced from character to character because I got bored with those. And I also like to play that underdog type character. Once I would stop playing Luke after Return of the Jedi, right? I wouldn't go into the Zahn books or anything like that because at that point he's had his arc and I'm done. I started as a farm boy.
Disney,
but like
take note.
What was that?
Disney, take note. This is where you went wrong.
But yeah,
I don't have a dog in that fight. But
so in D6 Star Wars, you're saying that they become more capable of resisting damage in combat as they
because there are skills that affect your ability, that can affect your resistance to damage or your ability to avoid damage.
Avoid, yes. Resistance is strength plus armor.
Yeah, but there are skills that you can get to boost that.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I don't remember it, but that's okay. I haven't played the Star Wars D6 in 15 years, so I don't know.
You've set him off. He's looking for. I thought you were looking for proof there, Eli.
No, I'm working.
Yeah,
Okay,
the usual thing of like he's at work while he's here. In terms of like classless systems, I mean, I did subject you, John, to Shadow of the Demon Lord, where it wasn't so much of a class, but like you were bouncing between different professions as you were leveling up. But that was more how many adventures have you gone on to, because that's all it was really about.
I wouldn't say you subjected us to anything in that game, really.
Well, listen,
we subjected you.
Listen, I have made many mistakes. Allowing a full group of goblins was definitely one of them. Anyways, additionally to that, there's also the Witcher role-playing game, which is using the exact same mechanics as Cyberpunk. Very much, here's your stat, here's your skills, go for it, and then there you go. It is also a very slow progression system, and it's intended to do that because of what the world is set out to do. So it works wonderfully with that. On top of that, we've also got I don't know what I would classify a lot of the earlier or first edition Warhammer 40k games, but I know that the second edition Dark Heresy was very much of a classless system where you chose your background, your home world, your profession, or just general association. And from there, it was more about what are the skills that you have gained throughout your life up until this point, which then aids you in reinvesting your experience points that you earn back into more skills, better improvements, and so on. What I found with that is that it really encourages a player to break the game down into the mechanics at that point, rather than saying, what has my character developed while on this mission? What have they learned while they've been out doing this? I know it's an absolute mystery how I've got this voice.
I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to work an NPC called Hell Saxius into my campaign.
Nah,
That's
give him horns.
Sounds like a magic weapon to me.
Ooh, a Hell Saxius. Ooh.
John made Saxius a tax collector in ours. That's as evil as you can get.
Yes. A quite a sort of. He's somewhat is slightly haughty, but he has every reason to be, because he knows he has the legal system on his side.
He does.
So
See, just if you know how to count, then make sure you actually do some math without a calculator. You never know. There might be some additional fees you didn't account for. Anyways, that's the distraction.
What the hell are you talking about?
In our OSC game on the weekends, regulars on this stream are NPCs in the game, and Saxius is the town's customs official.
I understood.
Yeah, so at one point, one of the players were charged 20% rather than 10%, as they were advertised, and someone had to look at the numbers and go, "Wait, that doesn't add up. We're being overcharged for this." And it's like, "Oh, yeah, whoops, I miscalculated," and then the players weren't charged that. Anyways,
this is my fault for asking. I don't blame you guys.
It's perfectly fine. It's John's fault for initiating this. Mutants and Masterminds is another one where it isn't so much of a class. It's a culmination of skills that makes up your superhero. And I've struggled with the whole leveling up in that, but I have found that the players love, because that game is just hell bent on giving the players a power trip beyond what you normally have. That's also been my experience with
superhero game, but that's why it's so broken.
Yes, but you're playing a superhero. Of course, you should be all powerful and big numbers, big everything. You just failing. No,
I was going to come to superhero games because Bear is our superhero game expert. I would say. I mean, we have all played superhero games, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
All
know.
right, I'll
Sean,
take that moniker.
but certainly, if you start off, if you play a Marvel superheroes module, you get given a pre-existing team of superheroes usually. But if you run a campaign, you have there are mechanics to create your own characters, which tend to be a little bit weaker than the superheroes than your Spider-Mans, your Captain Americas, your Hulks, and that sort of thing. In general, on average. But there is a karma system where you can spend karma points to grow. It's a very slow system because a lot of the time I find when playing it, people spend karma points to make sure they succeed in the adventure. So the adventures do a really good job of draining karma points. If you accidentally let an innocent person get injured, bye karma. It's that sort of thing, and it's very easily done. But your starting point in any superhero game is probably going to be the equivalent of fairly high level play in a fantasy game. Is that a fair assumption?
I'm sorry, were you talking to me?
Yes, Bear.
So number
Yes.
one, karma in Marvel should flow like water, both directions. You should not be squatting on it. You should not be holding it back. There's a karma advancement fund for you to put away stuff if you want to improve your character. But ultimately, the judge should be flowing it out to you, and you should be spending it. And nothing is sadder than watching a player sitting on 300-400 points of karma, in refusing to use it on rolls in crisis situations, while the rest of the team's like, "Dude, come on!" You know, it's ridiculous. And this is what happens when you tie advancement and life saving as the same mechanic. It's the same thing in Star Wars D6. It's the same thing in Marvel. Karma and advancement. Okay. Second, you decide what your characters are going to be. You decide what level you're going to play at in Marvel. Any other game, you're going to have points and builds and all this fun stuff, and you can set that. Champions is clearly the king monster of that one. But for superhero games in general, you need to decide what level you're going to be playing at. Are you street level? Are you city level? Are you country level? Are you world level? Are you cosmic? And then that'll determine what ranking you should be looking at. And then my last point is this. Nothing arses me off more than the idea of improving your character in a superhero game, because God knows, you know, Captain America started off completely incompetent, but now after years of play, he's like level 20. Like, it's just so nonsense. It's not. Superheroes only get more powers in story moments. They only get big movements when it's critical to their story. Otherwise, superheroes are very, very, very boringly the same over and over and over and over.
Spider-Man's been slinging that same set of powers around for how long?
Exactly. 70, 80 years now. You should, though, be able to improve laterally. You should be able to get better at hitting people, better at using the powers you have, better at avoiding danger.
In Marvel, yeah.
You know,
power
stunts,
Marvel,
but like, even in like something like a Champions or Mutants and Masterminds,
Yeah.
the skills you use to do stuff should be what's improving, not the base powers. At least that's my feeling.
Yeah,
that's true. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't disagree, and hence your firm belief that karma is there to be spent.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think my point was that, I mean, that certainly if you look at the character creation methods in Marvel, if you go by the book and you roll for your stats and you roll for your powers, you will begin very much at the level of somebody like Wasp. You're unlikely to be the Hulk. Highly unlikely.
No one will be the Hulk rolling, but you can't be the Hulk rolling. But
not quite, because the Hulk is the Hulk.
I mean, even that power level is not obtainable. But then there's this.
Yeah.
And me and my friends at my table, we called this the ultimate joke book. And yes, I know people out there that know it are cringing that I'm treating this precious piece of history so flippantly that sells for $400 and $500 on eBay. I don't care. It's a bad book. It's poorly written, and it just breaks the game. You can roll up. I literally watched someone roll up a cybernetic cucumber telepath using this. Nothing is more nonsense oriented.
It's Pickle Rick!
I blame Bones and Vigilantes of the random superhero. Hello, Mr. Welch. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the random generation in Marvel. Modeling characters is what me and everybody I know have played with. You just picked an idea, you put it together, within reason. Maybe the GM had you roll your power levels, and there was an issue of Dragon that actually had a point system for it. So if you really wanted to get down to it, there was they have a point buy system for it.
Well, actually, it wasn't in Dragon. I don't know where it was, but there is a point by that the fans made out on the market. I don't recall one in Dragon from the Marvel files, and I think
it's in. It's not in the Marvel files, and you're right. It's not in Dragon. It's in Polyhedron.
Oh, that I wouldn't know. I never touched that nonsense.
I have the entire Marvel Polyhedron run in PDF if you want it.
Nice. I would love to see that. I would love to take a look at that.
Somebody compiled all the Marvel superhero stuff for Polyhedron in one document.
Nice. I'd love to do that. So what I did with Mighty Superheroes is I got rid of that. I mean, I kept the random thing for people who want random, but I introduced this idea, which was called the heroic way of making a character.
Yeah.
Because originally the game was going to be called Heroic, and it might still be again. I haven't decided. But the heroic way was very simple, and it's how I ran my Marvel games forever. We decided on a campaign rank. So let's say we're going to go with amazing. All right. You get 1 amazing, 2 incredibles, 3 remarkables, 4 excellence, 5 goods, and then a selection of typicals and whatever to round out your character. Any one of those can be split into 2 of the lower ones. So you could split that amazing into 2 incredibles, or you could combine 2 incredibles into another amazing. Now build your character. And do that instead. Talents cost an excellent, blah, 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 blah. And I ran Marvel like that for 10, 15 years, and it works perfectly because people get to make the character they want to make. They get to have the power ranks, and they get to sort of play little games with it, like combining and splitting and getting what they want. And you wind up having a fairly straightforward power level that no one feels outshone by someone else in the group because they got a lucky random roll and have a monstrous on something while the other guy's got a feeble. It's like it's much better, if I do say so myself. But it works. It works really well. The one thing I cannot stand in Marvel are the point buys. And I've seen a couple of point buy systems now, and I'm just like, same reason I didn't like it in the D6 Universe game, the DC Universe game that came out from West End Games. I just think point buys belong in Champions and Mutants and Masterminds, those types of games where it's not about really being superheroes. It's about how sick a character you can build with your points and then have a grand old time from there. Which, by the way, if that's what you're into, mazel tov. Fill your boots, have a good time. I ain't going to shit on your fun. Just not for me. That's all.
Oh, right. Good. On that note, I'm going to bring up Lionel's comment here. It says here, Yo Geek mentioned survival games like Twilight 2000. No levels there, if I remember.
It's 2 levels, alive and dead. That's your levels in Twilight.
I've mentioned Twilight 2000. I know nothing about it. My fantasy, my role-playing games, fantasy games, horror, as in Call of Cthulhu type horror, and paranoia as one-shots. So has anyone played Twilight 2000? Does anyone know about?
Played it in high school.
I'm going to be playing in a game in the coming weeks, but mainly to learn about it. All Ones is running it.
Okay. So Halakar says in Twilight 2000 you get better by getting gear. That I do not mind that approach. If anything, that's how a lot of low-level original D&D was. I mean, it took played by the book. We're playing OSE. How much better have the parties got since they've been able to get more than a suit of chainmail, a shield, and a sword to start with? They've the characters have become much more effective. Now they've got 300 or 400 gold pieces to spend. They can afford holy water, plate mail, oil. They can afford a mule. So already getting the gear has boosted the power level of the party. If anything, as much as gaining a level from first to second would do on the original gear levels. So gear was huge in early versions of D&D, and I like it. I like the idea that managing your supplies, your equipment, can give you that boost, and that you've got something to spend your gold on to get a reward from it that isn't magical or over the top. It just helps you survive. And on that note, everyone just stares at me blankly.
Chat's very busy. I'm trying to keep up with chat.
All right, one magical weapon in OSE makes all the difference. Yes, yeah, it does. Absolutely. I've mentioned paranoia. We'll mention that in passing. Levels in paranoia, you might as well not have them.
Immaterial, yeah.
Absolutely immaterial.
Nobody
If
lived
any of
long
you
enough in Twilight 2000 to actually gain experience, anyways.
I mean, in paranoia, you might get the odd character to orange level, but if anyone reaches yellow, the game master is probably doing something wrong. You spend the whole time at red, the occasional orange, and just getting bossed around, and it's very fun. So we go back to something that Elfbait was talking about on your stream on Monday, and that's on the GM side of things, creating adventures.
Yeah.
And there's a very big difference in the tone and style of adventures that you create for characters of low and high levels. You have to go from the very mundane, low levels, usually, if you're thinking of a D&D type level-based game, up to very heroic, almost sort of earth-shaking adventures from about level 10 plus. And I know it sounds a bit of a cop-out, but as a DM, I don't like the strain it puts on me to think that I've got how to keep challenging them. And as a game, I think D&D was well designed in terms of when you reach the name level, that's when you retire. You buy a keep and hope your DM buys battle system.
But even when you get up to those levels, when you are thinking of the challenge, are you thinking specifically of the 4 to 5 players versus however many your creatures there, or like 6, 8 enemies? Like, do you keep it in such low numbers?
I mean,
because the reason why I ask is that even when it comes up to that point, it becomes, if you want it, the way I do is that I boil it down to resource management, and the best way to counteract players being that high level, having that so much power, is that you have almost a numbers game. Because I've thrown my players up against hundreds of hobgoblins, where they would have to then start going, okay, we have to use all of these low-level spells first. We have to really centralize them in here, use the bigger powers to do this, this, and this, and think very conservatively about how they would be using their powers, preemptively prepare things before they would engage themselves, because their resources were very limited. So at that point, that was a challenge to them, because no matter what they did, I would be able to say, well, you're exposed here, you're out here, like, you're now being charged by X amount of hobgoblins. You've now got, even though you might be behind cover, 20 of them still going to fly at you. That's still 20 I can roll. I just need to get 120 to hit them. That's all that I'm looking for at that point. And yeah, it might be a bit more tedious with, we've got to account for all of the numbers, but that's only if you start boiling it down to having to deal with every single individual hobgoblin. You can still bundle them together in groups to streamline it.
I personally think that more thought needs to be put on the DM side into the environment, the situation in which encounters occur at higher levels. And I thoroughly enjoy coming up with encounters and scenarios and dungeons for levels 1 through maybe 7.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond there, I don't find it interesting. And I guess it's a personal thing.
No.
one of the reasons I like the level 5 to 7 range, especially in AD&D, is because this is right before you head into that domain level, high level play. You're still effectively playing the same style of game. You're just jacked up a little bit. Characters are more survivable. But the level to 5-7 is still the familiar game you've been playing. The dungeon crawl, the wilderness adventures, sort of like that. And just your characters you're not risking, being run through by a goblin's arrow at one hit point. And then once you cross that threshold, you get characters. Your fighter at 9th level can start building his keep. You can start clearing out land. Same with the cleric, things like that. And the game necessitates a shift. You could still play the dungeon crawler, but it necessitates the shift to that domain level style play, and you can add in the political intrigue and things like that.
Yes, you're laying the foundations for the name level play when you sort of are at a level 5, 6, and 7. I mean, I guess I am one of my biases towards all this is that there are just so. I mean, I had to run D&D using modules for years. I just didn't have the organization or the consistent group to run something that I'd created. I didn't have the ability to create much any good for a long time. But there are so many solid mid-level adventures for AD&D and for expert D&D.
Well, you plateau and you sit there for quite a while.
Yeah. The material there is great, really, really good, and there's so many great encounters in those that you can just lift, and that I guess that affects made my life easier, makes my life easier still, but I guess it probably affects my bias somewhat. But there we go. So when creating an adventure for a higher level group, what is your main aim at that point?
To kill them so that I can go back to playing lower levels.
I've always found that at the higher levels, that's a big problem, honestly. What you're going to have them do becomes kind of difficult, because what your players, in my experience at least, what your players want to do and what adventures you want to throw at them are often very different at high level. Because at high level, they're starting to get into like, oh, I want to go get the stuff to make this custom magic item, or I want to take over this kingdom, or I want to, and while yes, you can use that in your games and as fuel as a GM, I've always found that the parties start to splinter at high levels. They start to get individual goals that start to really detract from the group play.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Change in style.
It does. No, I do agree. I mean, my second edition group are now in the 10-11 period, and we have that period where we had to basically focus on what is each of the different characters wanting to do and so on. And what we more or less came to the conclusion of is that, okay, well, we are now going to have periods where the team, the players, will pick one or two characters, and then the team goes in and they push for them to achieve that, and then they go down the line to make sure that everyone gets what it is that they want, rather than everyone running to all of the different wins. Keep the teamwork in the team, and then make sure that you go out and you support all of these different ideas, so that you ultimately everyone walks away a winner from that. And I helped facilitate that, and I also ended up. I recently said, right, guys, this is the end game. This, once you have achieved this is now the goal we're going towards. This is the point where the game ends, and then we will call it quits there, because in this group we've been playing for almost 3 years. So at that point, I was thinking, okay, well, we've reached a high point. Happy days. this would be a good point to end it, and I will tell the players now so that they know this is where I am pushing you towards. This is the end goal, and if you reach it, fantastic. If we die along the way, then you know what, we had just as good of a run.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, yeah, set a specific endpoint so everyone knows what to expect. I mean, when I ran my module campaign, my endpoint was to be Bloodstone Pass, because I wanted them just to have one module that lent into the battle system rules, just to give a very different style of play, and then I was going to end it. But they ended it for themselves by charging Brazimal in G3, which was I couldn't account for their stupidity. So anyhow, what was I going to come to next? Right, rate of improvement. One of the things that people most criticize, especially 5e, about is the fact that by the book, the characters gain their levels so quickly.
Oh, it's unreal.
And
if you play Adventurers League, the first 4 levels are one level per session.
Which is a shame. They're forcing you into the superhero side of things. They're forcing you towards being massive world-changing heroes far too quickly. You don't get to savor your new powers. You don't get to learn how they work, and you don't really get to learn your character, because those levels when you're fragile is when your character traits should come to the fore most. That's when your characters are more than the sum of their powers, because they don't have the powers.
Yeah, well, a good chunk of that comes from all the feedback that they responded to, that people didn't like hanging around at levels. So the game was made with the fast leveling, so people could get up there and get a chance to use those powers, because they're constantly chasing that bugbear with D&D, that people don't tend to play past 10th level.
I'm going to say that the people they surveyed were wrong.
Well, I would say you're probably an outlier. You and I mean, because even in my groups back in the day, we tended to cap out at level 10, 11 and get bored with the game and start over. Very rarely did we play well past that. And I'm going to, it's going to sound really bad, but I'm going to expect that whether or not who they surveyed or not was maybe the right people, they have the money to do the research and the surveying to get data. And that data, right, wrong, or indifferent, is what they based their development of their game on.
And it's been highly successful so far, at least.
Yeah.
Like, that's,
I mean,
at the end of the... Go on.
I just don't... I don't think D&D actually is the product for most... D&D is a great product for most people who want to play D&D right now.
Yeah, and D&D is...
It's not a great product for people who want to play D&D the way they used to play D&D.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's... The product has evolved with the time and with the customers. With all respect to everyone here, but what we like is not reflective of what the current customer is asking for.
Is that due to sort of like a more casual style of play, more time pressures, more less patience?
I think it's a disservice to say it's less patience. I just think that trends and tastes have changed.
Yeah, like
because other games outside of D&D also reflect those trends. It's not just D&D.
Yeah, and look at the older games. It's like, oh, you will need between 6 to 15 players or characters for these games. It's like,
with an average of 6 to 8 hours in your game session.
Exactly. Like it's been shortened. It's been rehashed. Now it's games are between 3 to 4 hours, give or take, on the average. That's what the expectations are. It's not a. I don't see it as a we are now less patient or anything. Like there's a different focus on what players want out of the games.
I think there's more
And-
competition for people's time too. I don't think
And
it's a
their
matter
money.
of patience.
There
are a lot more cool things to do nowadays than there used to be.
That is true.
So maybe I don't want to spend 8 hours of my life every week or 6 times a week like I did when I was 15 playing D&D.
Yeah.
Maybe some days I want to go kayaking, a couple of days a week I want to go out with my friends at the club. You know, I want to go hiking. I want to go to the craft fair. I want to, whatever you want to do. There's 1,000 other things that people can do instead of play D&D right now. So I think it's really unfair to say that it's a matter of attention span.
I would also argue maybe a final point is when you look at the RPGs that you buy, think of the investment that you're putting into that, because the core 3 books if we just use D&D, those 3 alone can probably last you for a good solid couple of years before you run out and say like, okay, well, we now need something else, because you can use that for so much. Go on.
No, I don't disagree with you, but I think that the other part is you're investing $150 approximately, and that's going to have to go to $180. Which MSRP, I know you can get it cheaper, but that's what the expectation is that you're investing. That's a fair amount to invest. Plus, the players are probably spending another $50 each for a book. Now, when you get some of the other ones, that's much cheaper. But part of it is, and I'm looking at what my friend did, and he admits he's generally only played 5e, with the exception of except when I ran a couple games with him. Is there is that dopamine hit, I want to call it, every time you go up a level. Oh, I get this new ability. Oh, I get this new ability. And the problem that you have really with 5e is the players are not learning their characters. And it's not that I mind fast leveling. As much as people complain about fast leveling, that's not as much the problem. I think the 2 things. One is finding challenges that seem reasonable and believable, which I know sounds funny in a fantasy world. But then the other problem that you get is that players are advancing beyond their ability to understand the characters. I don't mind someone that has 10 years of experience starting off at a high level. I do mind someone that hasn't learned their character, especially a spellcaster, is trying to learn it, and they get really the analysis paralysis of they're getting so many spells so quickly, they aren't sure what to do for everything, and it slows the game down from that aspect. So, when we're talking about high levels, I admit I like 7th level for D&D. I think if I was going to do a Dark Sun, I would like the 10th through 14th level.
Dark Sun is different, though, isn't it? Dark Sun is so brutal that
everyone says it's brutal, but I've been rereading it. It's actually just it punishes you. It punishes you differently, is what I want to call it. Everyone talks about it being brutal. It's just that you just don't wander out into the wilderness. But that said, if anyone ever rolls the actual encounter tables on the back of the monster manual, those are pretty brutal too if you went into the wrong thing. So,
yeah, well, one thing Dark Sun has over a lot of as far as the brutality though, is most D&D campaigns don't have your weapons and armor breaking on you when you roll badly.
Well, that's true, but it's still, to be fair on that is, then you carry 2 weapons. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, but when a shrub that you run into is psychic and can attack you,
I know. But you're psychic too. I mean, because I've been rereading it over the last couple of weeks for Dark Sun, and really what it is you get hit because your armor class is probably 2 to 4 higher than normal, because you don't have as good of metal. Your weapon might break. At that point, you begin to go, maybe I won't pick this fight. It's exactly what we're doing with OSE. Is OSE harder than AD&D? I would say yes, if you actually look at some of the rules.
Yes, but in Soviet Dark Sun, fight picks you.
Well, no. I mean, if you look at it, is the fighter has 1d10 hit points per level, and in OSE it's 1d8. I mean, they literally make it smaller for the health, and yet, despite apparently I've been lucky that I haven't died, but all it takes is 1 swift hit and you're dead. In Dark Sun, you take 1 hit and you better run. That's the expectation, is you'll survive 1, maybe 2 hits before you have to run. You're just going to get hit more often. So whereas in the old one, you're like, but you will get level, and Dark Sun is really intended to start playing with that battle system. When you start getting up to that 10th level, they start really incorporating that battle system aspect. You're expected to run these massive things. But
okay, I do notice somebody in chat has mentioned Baldur's Gate 3, so I just need to do this again.
uh-oh. If you want to play a video game, there's the old. You know what was the most brutal game? Was anyone that played an SSI D&D game back in the day.
Pool of Radiance, Curse of the Azure Bonds. Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember having all the characters maxed out for their stats, and they still were dying left and right. What would you
Right. I'm going to go to a question that while we're on the topic of session length and that sort of thing. Do you think the 3 to 4 hour game has come from the convention model, and in particular live play campaigns? I think that is it's an influence.
I think shorter time frames came from the idea that community play was baked into 5th edition. So a 3 to 4 hour regular table session easily boils down to a 2 hour dungeon. Yeah, the guild.
The 5 or 6 room dungeon that has become very popular.
Well, yeah, but their organized play format is 2 hour sessions generally.
I'm going to say this much is we all got busy in our lives. What 3 to 4 hours is an evening. I've known for 3 or 4 hours for the last 20 plus years. And it's usually like, hey, we're going to start at 7 and go till 11 because everyone has to work tomorrow. A lot of people I knew played on Wednesdays. So you had that 4 hour session from that time limit. And then some of it is that when you start having kids or a wife and stuff like that, you're like, look, I can't dedicate that.
Most of the demographic doesn't have a kid or a wife.
Well,
for 5e.
Well, 5e.
Yeah, that's true.
I've got neither. I like the 3 to 4 hours framework. It's just right for me.
Yeah.
By the time I'm
4
done
hours, like
game,
I said,
I'm ready to wrap it up and say that was a good game.
It leaves you time to do other shit with your day.
Yeah.
Whether you have to or want to.
No, I do completely agree, but I've also just noticed that the few times I've been in games where the DM said, no, we're going to be playing between 4 and 5 hours. I'm like, okay. We hit the 4th hour. I'm just sitting and going, wow, I am just tired. There's so much that's been happening. We've had 2 combats.
Online play is more mentally demanding than face-to-face play. That is a fact.
But that's absolutely true. I mean, I know that my real life group, we play from 6 in the evening till midnight. But that we stop in the middle of the game and we have dinner together as a group.
Yeah, but
as a response to a follow-up on that Andy Houston had about the organized play, I wasn't speaking to organized play for conventions. I was speaking towards the in-store organized play that is part and parcel with 5e. So.
Yeah, I do like it. I always take them to 11. Yeah, but there's 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. There's a big difference.
This might be true.
Well, but I agree with Saxius is when you do it and you start at 6 and you have a dinner, it's a social activity. But to be fair on this, how is that any different than when we used to hang out and watch football games, or something like that?
Yeah, but I think you have to look at not how you yourself necessarily are playing the game, but how most people are playing the game, and
that's 4 hours is what I see most people playing the game at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what most people nowadays are willing to put into anything. 4 hours is a blockbuster movie. 4 hours is enough time out at the bar or the club to where you're not going to be bankrupt.
But you're going to be pleasantly drunk.
But I mean, but it's just similar as football game. 4 hours is a good time. Now, when we were younger, we could do longer. I remember doing all night sessions, and that sounds great. But
but even nowadays, the young people don't do 4 hours on anything because they've got everything else pulling at them. My kids. I looked at my kids' class load, for example. I'm like, when the hell are you supposed to be a kid? You're getting so much damn homework. Don't they do they do anything while you're at school?
Well, this is why I went for homeschooling, and yeah, you can find out that.
But no, it
Yeah,
was just there's a lot of demands. Not to mention
Yes.
the world says that your kid needs to be in 82 different activities after school nowadays. Back when I was in school, I got out of school, I went home and go, well, I got 3 hours till my mom's home. I'm gonna go do whatever the fuck I want, and that's gonna be D&D.
Oh well, don't get me wrong. I still did that. But that's when I got some characters up to 40th level. There's a certain point
I still
where,
do that.
yeah,
Not all of us are so lucky.
well, yes, but I when I was playing every day after school, and we were doing 1 XP per thing, and I was rolling, and as I get higher and higher, this is the problem that you get. Dragons are pretty common at that point. If you want to start doing, I had to make the dragons overpowered in 1E by using that. What was that Dragon magazine? And was it really any better of a game? No, I think that's why I like 7th level, because you don't just get that 1/3 level spell. And 3rd level spells are really the powerhouses where you get the really cool stuff. You mean I get water breathing? You mean I get fly? I get invisibility. I get fireball. Lightning
if you
bolt.
roll
Well, yeah, that goes back to what I was saying
Yeah.
about
Oh, yeah.
the payoff for higher
Yeah.
level play. Why I don't really think that high level play is all that worth it, because the amount of time you have to put in it to run it, and the longer the encounters tend to take, no matter what the encounter is,
Yeah.
they're not much more fun than they were at the lower levels. You just have more hit points to chew through, and
That has been an issue with your level-based games. We're adding more hit points per level. That's been an issue throughout time. And yeah, you're chewing through sacks of hit points, and it is really at its peak around now. I mean, I know 4th edition was very much sacks of hit points, and 5th edition is, again, all the monsters feel like just great big piles of hit points that you've just got to whittle down, and it can get tedious, and more so as you gain levels. I'm going to come now to the topic of the manner in which adventures are designed and scenarios are designed between systems. You have, from my experience in 5th edition, high level play very quickly becomes bigger battlefields, one big bad guy, and a DM who is aware of the issue of an action economy and how big bad guys can be taken out very quickly by powerful PCs. So they throw in lots and lots of minions in the
I
fight.
feel so cold out.
Is that what happens if you in your 5th edition games? You throw in lots and lots of minions just to make sure that
I do that in my 2nd edition. I do that full stop.
You should.
Because my argument, or the way I run my maybe not so much 5th edition, but certainly my 2nd edition, is that wizards are rare. Like, proper wizards are rare. The ones that are very high level, worth their name in the salt. All those kind of wizards are rare, and what is readily available for most opponents that the players are going to be facing are cheap, expendable fodder. Looking at kobolds, looking at goblins, looking at the hobgoblins, all of that lot, they will happily bring in lower level creatures to throw at the enemy to then whittle them down, because it's a tried and tested battle tactic that you can make use of.
I feel that it is more important in 5th edition with the way that the characters can absolutely go Nova.
My method in 5th edition is I try to mirror the abilities that the players have. So if the group's going up against someone of worthwhile, make them a worthwhile opponent. When my players fought Strat, I immediately gave him the abilities of a battle master, because it is within the legend, it was within the gameplay that Strat von Sarovich is meant to be an excellent swordsman.
I'm going to say, I did some. If anyone here is familiar with Module X5, the Temple of Death, the Master in there, I converted that adventure to 5th edition for a group that I was training in the old school way slowly. And I basically made the Master a lich with clerical abilities.
Yeah. Exactly. My point is just like when it comes to like 5th edition, I will try to then, if an enemy is meant to be a serious opponent, then make them a serious opponent. Make them able to disarm the players. Allow them to have Misty Step to reposition themselves around. Allow them to have these additional, either a minion or a couple of other people that can also cast spells that will equally annoy the players because they will do the exact same the other way around. But you don't need that to be in high quantity. You might have a couple of mooks that'll run at them to be a pest, a minion, a wild dog that nibbles at your sides, and then that's there for distraction, so that everyone's got something that they are going to be involved in.
I'm going to say I didn't get to finish my point because Saxius was feeling personally butthurt by
yes, I was.
So my point, I was just going to finish my point, and it does sort of refer a little bit. I think I'm going to refute Doof's comment here slightly. In older games, because of the existence of instant death mechanics, more frequently in older games than in newer games such as 5th edition, you can still make single enemies or just pairs of enemies or whatever very, very threatening to even high-level parties. And in my experience playing through AD&D, my party were just as likely to get involved in a fight at low levels as they were at high levels. They were just as likely to avoid combat at low levels as they were at high levels, because they were always aware of that immediate mortality. Whereas in 5th edition, what I've noticed is it's very hard to make them run away from fights at low levels. It's pretty much impossible at high levels.
I'm going to bring up something that you're talking about. I'm going to look at more at the 1E, because when I ran my friend through that and he got those super high level characters, a lot of stuff doesn't really mean that much. I mean, you died, reincarnation, regeneration. It doesn't have the same impact because you can have that. I mean, when you're at a 5th level or even 7th level, there's no coming back for the most part. Once you hit about 9th plus, you start getting those spells that you can bring those old characters back. I'm not saying you couldn't do it before, but that's part of it. I think part of what I look at is when you're starting to get that high level domain, combat actually becomes sometimes less interesting rather than the exploration, because now you're looking at Manual of the Planes.
I was about to say that most of our high level games that we did end up playing ended up going extra planner. Or putting the characters into places where the usual networks of support weren't there. Like, they were well away from town. They were on their own. Yeah.
Well, that was the Gith Yankee, the Gith Ziri. When you start looking at them, even the Drow, they were at such a higher level than anything else around there, which sometimes creates this idea of, why aren't they taking over the entire world? Like, well, they can't go above ground. They're very small in number. There are certain aspects that come into that, but I think that's a big factor. Is at that point it's easier to suspend disbelief. And I want to mention this because one of the modules I hated was Against the Giants, the super module, that one, where they decided to send out like 15 9th level fighters to challenge your party, and I went, aren't these supposed to be coming from 1st edition? That was the 2nd edition module, but that when they start,
was it? No, it was 1986.
The super
module was still during the 1st edition era, but
yeah, that was during the gold spine edition of AD&D.
Oh, okay.
But the encounter you're talking about was one of the ones that was added to pad out the super module by one of the authors they brought in, because obviously Gygax did G1, 2, 3, D1, 2, 3, and then Sutherland did Q1 with Gygax's notes. But when they redid it, they brought in some new authors to fill in, to create some extra encounters between the modules, and that's why that encounter just feels wrong.
Well, but the whole point is that 9th level humans are supposed to be incredibly rare. and then that
Yes,
at
they
that
are,
point
yeah,
is
yeah.
just and when you bring in 15 of them or whatever you're going to do, why the hell are they even really together, all working as a group to go after your party? They've got like whole continents to go, explore or conquer. And I think that that's part of the problem of high level adventures. Unless you really need to go up to you have to get those next level monsters to do it, because you have gone beyond the mortal realm. You're doing extra planar. Now it's worth going to the city of brass. You have the spells to survive. You're going into these other areas. You're now dealing with the gods. I think that's part of the aspect of high level play. And you won't necessarily be fighting all the time. And while we talk about domain level play,
High level play is where you get to actually be the paladin in hell.
Yes, exactly. I mean, how did you even get to hell in the first place if you were in high level?
Yeah, I mean that illustration at least does suggest that there is some great. I mean, I hope that it's not a low-level paladin who just had a really bad, spell effect or something.
It could be.
That's what happens when you go to the Tomb of Horrors.
I do need to flag up just one comment that was made a little while ago that I flagged up and forgot about. And Slan, suggest this one more time, and all the monsters will be attacking you in the OSE game.
He's not wrong though.
No, he's not.
Because
if they miss, they will attack you again.
That adventure features a mind flare.
If they miss that second round, they will attack you again.
That adventure features a mind flare with a force field belt and a laser pistol. So.
Well, but as much as they knock, and I'll be honest, I know Yale Geek hates that, but boy, if you actually read the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide, they had no problems with laser weapons and
read
for
anything by
Martians.
Arneson's entire campaign world was a sci-fi fantasy romp.
Oh no, Sexiest left as soon as I said that.
No, he's had to go because he's had a lot of work recently. So it's been great to have Sexiest back in the stream because he was one of the original people who helped me start off these streams on a Wednesday, and he's always welcome to join us. He's a really good DM. He's a really knowledgeable guy, and our streams are better for having Sexious involved. So, Sexious, cheers.
And he
fellas.
cracks that
Cheers,
whip.
fella.
Keeps us on topic.
I know.
Absolutely, yes.
I'm
But
trying
now
to
that
think
he's gone, let's discuss Jello.
of.
How all the Scandinavian
Low level or
are
high
the
level
same.
fellow?
Hey, well, isn't that why we have black puddings? Anyway,
Yeah, ochre jelly.
Yes. So I mean, I think that's part of the aspect is that at a certain point, in first edition especially, the idea was that you can shift towards domain level play, because why are you hunting around, moving around in dungeons? You're all beginning to get we've got your fighter that's setting this up, along with your wizard that sets up the keep, your pet cleric sets up his temple, and now you have basically a full city ready to go. If you get all those players up to 9th level and they establish their home.
It's almost like the creators of the game didn't expect you to actually play past those levels.
Well, yeah, that is true. That is
They're
true.
like, we know our game really, but people wanted to go that high, so we made it to where they could. But honestly, we don't expect anybody to actually play that far.
So Eli, this is the way I look at it: is that just gets us to the level where we can play chainmail again instead of playing this role-playing adventure game.
Right there. Now we can go back to pushing lead.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Well, I think that's sometimes what they want, because when you start reading the rules, it's like, oh, when you get a big combat, switch over to chainmail. I'm like,
you roll on your followers table and attract 100 footmen.
Yes.
Okay, what the hell am I going to do with 100 footmen as an adventurer?
Well, did you ever read the Dungeon?
All right, you guys go in there and clear out that dungeon. We'll be right here.
Well, remember the Dungeon Master's Guide. If you have less than 25, you don't get a negative for evasion. Like how many people? And while we all laugh at this because that's not the way we played as kids. If you actually look at like what's going on, you're basically bringing the whole towns with you, and how many retainers and footmen and everything. I mean, it looks more like you're trying to become a conquistador as you go into the dungeon. At which point I'm going, hey Bob, you're level 0. Footman, go in that area for Tomb of the Horrors.
Yeah. And while we're on high level, gaming. I know how much you love Tomb of Horrors, Omanel. I know how much you think it is the greatest adventure module of all time. But I do think that adventure showcased what was expected from high-level play more than any other.
I think it showcased what was expected from all levels of play. To be fair on that, I just thought it was.
It was just turned up to 11.
Yeah. Well, it barely had any monsters, which is part of the real reason it just felt like out of place. But even then, like I said, as you send Bob in, Bob opens the door, he gets skewered by a spear, and you go, all right, keep that door closed. All right, the next, when it has the 3 entrances in there, and you send one of your minions to the back, and you start counting to 10, like, we lost another minion. I mean, to me,
good luck persuading them if you're using reaction rules.
Well, that's why you know. but well, after a while, it's like, as I heard someone say, is, oh, my party was full of engineers, which I thought was hilarious. He said they had no problems. They just deconstructed the entire tomb by digging out every piece over the the next succeeding several weeks. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's kind of anticlimactic.
That's a solution that it can only be come up by bad English. It's a solution that could only be dreamed up by a bunch of engineers because it exists completely in the absence of what it would take to accomplish that.
Well,
yes, they can come up with a method. They can figure out all the math. But first of all, if you start screwing around with a Sararak's tomb and all of that, do you not think that he would have countermeasures? Or, do you realize,
as per the module, it doesn't. That's why I said it's a bad module. There's several reasons I don't like
It's
that.
a
I don't
bad
know, it sounds like
module
you-
because the writer didn't take the time to think that a group of engineers were going to dig out.
that's
the
what
dungeon.
the DM
Yeah.
is for.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
sorry. That's not a bad module.
Sararak is the guy who's managed to make sure that his tomb is maintained in a pristine state, no matter how
No.
many people try to go through there, and
Well,
has managed to capture and hold spheres of annihilation in place, and all of that. And yet he's not going to be able to have some. If somebody tries to fuck around with the basic structure of my temple, he's not going to have a contingency. As a DM, I'd be like, all right, you just let that sphere of annihilation loose. It's running free.
Well, I mean, part of me looks.
It was locked in place by magics, and
Well,
you've
well,
There
undone the
was a
magics.
giant pit of magma under pressure right underneath the temple, and you just breached it and sprayed lava all over your party. Well done, sir.
What you find out is the green demon face, was actually an inhibitor, and the sphere of annihilation just starts expanding now.
Yeah, bro.
Actually, if I'm going to be that kind of DM, what is it, the Star Dragon or whatever that comes in that's minus 10,000 armor class?
Yep, the solar dragon.
Yeah,
Yep.
but no, the whole point of that one was he's so old he doesn't care. He assumed that he was a lich at some point, and he's rotted away. But that's why I said is I don't.
Too.
What's that?
Sarah could just wake up. Oh, you're fucking with the structure. Okay, the demi-lich comes. Who's knocking on my door?
Well,
Yeah.
no, but the demi-lich won't wake up unless you actually do something to it. That's the whole point.
My point is, though, the solution is very much an engineer's solution. They come up with the way that it could be done, not taking into account the labor, the time, the environmental conditions, the stress factors.
There is a strong point that a Sararak is the dungeon. So you mess with his dungeon, he wakes up.
That's again, but part of me just goes, everything that Eli's talking about. When you're high level, a lot of these logistics aspects go away, which is one of the reasons I don't like some of the high level aspects. It's like, that's why you have Lehman's tiny hut. You have the, create water. You have to create food, and you can do this. It's like
Morden Kanan's magnificent mansion and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, you're the which is fine, but travel becomes less, how do I want to say, adventurous, and that's why you go to the other planes. And
it's a fair cop, because at the higher levels you have the means to go about anywhere. The destination has to really count more than the journey at that point.
I'm sorry.
Omen now did his usual blip.
I know. I don't know
Right.
what's going on with my stuff.
We move on to extra planar stuff.
Hey. It's almost like we let in there.
Yeah. Now, I'll admit now, when I last played in a game that had a chance of moving towards extra planar stuff, I pushed back against it using my character, and I used my character to derail any attempts of other characters to open portals to other planes because I wasn't interested, and I used my character to do that because he was a pedantic and mardy old individual who didn't want to do that because I made him that way. But in terms of making other planes feel authentic, it's not an easy job for a DM. Have a look at the absolute car crash that was Queen of the Demon Web Pits as a starting point. Did any of the other original module writers manage to get the feel of other planes right?
I think once you start going over with really more of the 2E aspect, I think that when you get into not so much Spelljammer but Ravenloft and Dark Sun and some of these
really the really alien planes are going to be alien, right? Like if you're going to the elemental plane of fire and it's all fire, and it's like, okay, you can't. There's not much you can do with that. It's fire. It might be fire creatures, and if your character can live, for however long they can live. So plane hopping is going to be to other habitable realms that you can explore that are effectively just other lands.
Well, that was a material plane. I think it had stuff in there but that's why the Manual of Planes came out. And I thought the Manual of Planes was really good. I never got Planescape myself, but the Manual of Planes I thought was excellent for letting you understand how some of these things worked, what they were like. Actually, I don't know if the can had a little bit in it too. I thought that really helped. The Dungeon Master's Guide, not so much. So, for the end of the first edition, the Manual of Planes was kind of the swan song for first edition of really playing those high level games. That's the way I looked at it.
I mean, for me, the strong point of the Manual of the Planes was the random demons, the random sort of creatures that you would find on those planes, those bizarre monstrosities that would just not be logical on any form of the prime material plane. That was where that book, for me, had its strength. But what I would really like to have seen is examples and tips on portraying those other planes. You can imagine quite easily, for example, Nirvana, not the band that I saw live twice, by the way, but the realm of the Modrons. It's very easy to think of how to portray a very organized, very logical, and very mechanical realm where everything has its place in the order. But how do you portray the Abyss?
I will say this much: Dragon Magazine had an excellent one for the 7 hells or the 9 hells. They did
the 9 hells is a very well ordered place, I would imagine.
But it described each of the levels or layers of the 9 hells in Dragon Magazine, which I thought was excellent for giving you an idea. This plane is like this, and it gives you a feeling for it. And I sometimes feel that's.
Manal, I'm so tempted to kick you for saying this. So tempted.
What? Because I don't know what the 5e version was like. So all I can say is
pure garbage.
Absolute
shit.
It should never, ever have been converted in the manner it was. It completely undermined the intent and the legacy of the original.
Which was
I don't know. People hate the 5e version just as much as they hated the 1e version. So.
They hate the 5e version because it's rubbish. They hated the 1e version because it killed their characters.
No, they hate the 5e version because it's actually pretty faithful to the 1e one. Every complaint I've heard about 5e is exactly what the 1e one is.
The problem with the 5e version
I get this into
is it's actually too easy. It's too easy. It waters everything down. The only way you can die really in the 5th edition one is by being stupid. It makes a Sararak beatable. It turn well,
that's just 5e though. I mean,
Yeah.
the adventure in 5e is pretty much a verbatim conversion of
but it doesn't take into account the fact that the 5e characters of the equivalent level are much more potent with many
but again,
more hit points.
the adventure is as hated as it ever was. The biggest problem that I have with 5e version of Tomb of Horrors is that the 5e crowd doesn't understand what it was originally for, and they try to run it as part of their regular campaign for their regular characters.
I would argue
the players are like, "Oh, this is so dumb. It's designed to kill my character. It's not designed to be like a story or an adventure." Exactly what it's for. The original one even says, "We don't suggest you play this with your regular character."
Exactly.
And it was, just the whole tone of the module. It was fairly boring. It wasn't one of those that was even fun to read, in my opinion.
I loved it. I loved it.
I thought of it as a great teaching module for a DM just from the standpoint of the sorts of things you could come up with to throw at your players. As an educational example for DMs, for the sorts of puzzles, traps, just general evil in a pre-Grimtooth's environment, it was a great example of that because it's nothing but that. You have all sorts of examples all over D&D for good monster encounters in AD&D, and there are a few good examples of some tricks and traps. But here was a very concentrated, focused example of tricks, traps, puzzles, and just other dastardly things besides a monster fight that a DM could throw at
and
players.
The key was that they were avoidable.
Yeah, I'm not saying they weren't, but I see her sometimes like, why didn't everyone have a 10-foot pole and use this stuff? But there's just some things I didn't like. Like one of the things, like, oh, just close up the book and pretend that you found the demi-lich, and like that's
so you don't like fun.
I don't. If you're closing up the book because you want to pretend that they found it, you know what? That's why I said it's.
Well, how else are you actually supposed to sell that point? I think so. I mean, Gygax was being cheeky there.
It was because
at the end of a game, let's say you were to run an adventure that has a false ending. Omanel, just if you were going to run one, how else are you going to sell it to the players that doesn't leave them looking across the table going, "What's next? It's not actually over. What am I'm going to be looking for extra stuff." By doing that little move, you're pantomiming the trickery that's written into the adventure. The whole adventure isn't really supposed to be a serious module. It's basically
which is why
taking a piss.
Which is why I hate the module. To be honest, that's why.
Do you like White Plume Mountain?
I haven't played White Plume Mountain. I've never even read it. So,
but you like, yeah, and I'm just I'm play fighting with you right now.
I know.
You like Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, right?
You know what? I haven't played that one either. There's certain ones I couldn't find. But again,
well, you like Dungeon Crawl Classics, so your taste is in question anyway.
No. I like the fighter in Dungeon Crawl Classics because it gives you a little bit to do more stuff than the regular fighter. But no, I think that there's
it's pick on Omanel evening.
Oh, that's
no.
fine.
Well,
Can I get on
I haven't
that?
had a good honest play fight in a while.
You better get on it. You better pile on. I can take all four.
Listen, what you like to do on the weekend is your own business, sir. But please don't entice me to your deviant behavior. Thank you.
He's got enough bad business with his endeavors in Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, I was about to say, speaking of deviant behavior, here we go again.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't say shit for 20 minutes. I say one thing, and we're back to me being part of bestiality. Thank you.
Oh, no.
Thank you, John.
The only thing I agree with,
scholar and gentleman, sir.
None of us are druids.
Is that fighters are boring because if they don't get special abilities, vanilla fighter can be just fine, can be great.
Well, okay, but we're getting off topic, but we're past an hour and a half, so that makes sense.
Sure.
Role playing ROLE playing makes any character interesting in any situation, so long as it's a good character. There's great things going on. There's awesome NPCs to interact with. Players have personalities in their characters, and they're doing stuff. This obsessive need for the mechanics to determine your character's interesting level, or your Q rating in the film industry, whatever the hell you want to call it, is absolutely pedantic nonsense. It is up to you to bring that character to life. The best character I ever played was a wizard who had a 9 intelligence. He was barely able to cast spells, and I played him as such. I played him as not the brightest thing you go do, right? Oh, I'll do that then. And it was fun, and we had a good time, and it didn't matter. But
He'd have gotten well with the
mechanics. He'd have
gotten well with the second edition fighter that I rolled, who had 11 strength and about 50. He had 15 dexterity. His intelligence and wisdom were both around the 5 or 6 level. And I rolled very low gold as well. So I gave him hide armor and a bow, and I made him a sort of like a bit of a plains nomad sort from a wandering tribe.
So we could team up as like the Wish version of Dunkin' Egg or something, right? Like,
I have no idea what you're on about there. But
you know what Wish is or Dunkin' Egg is? Which one do you know?
I don't know either.
Where do you live? In a box?
Yes.
Okay.
Dunkin' Egg stores are a lot of fun. They're actually making them for HBO, I think.
Yes, they are. And Wish is a Chinese knockoff website. You order stuff.
Oh, I've seen that. I've actually seen it.
Okay. So the idea is that when you order something off Wish, it never looks like the picture, and it's always really sad. You know what I mean?
Never order clothing off of Wish because they don't understand how actual sizes work.
Yeah.
I was lucky to find in Cambodia, jeans that were only like 6 inches short on me.
But no, back to that character bear. And then he was first level. He encountered the party, and he was staring at a map.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Don't know quite where I am. I'm following this map. I can't read very well, but that arrow points to the letter N, and I know N is short for nice." So that's the way I'm going. The only problem is when I turn the map round, it's a different way.
It's no Z. They turn to the side, it's a Z.
Which stands for zealot, which means we're going to find ourselves some priesty people. Let's go that way then. They got cookies.
But yeah, that character managed to kill a badly wounded and emaciated bear with a bear. There you go.
What do you have against my people today, man?
With one arrow shot, and then he got critically hit by a gnoll with a big polearm, and he was going through his adventure and believing that bears were really easy, just simple squirrel type fodder, but gnolls were the most evil, twisted, hideous, and that lasted with every adventure he had. He would tell people that gnolls were the worst things possible to fight. And bears are easy. Go hunting bears. A child could hunt a bear, yeah.
I'm going to, the other, we talk about a high level, and really when you're starting, the fighters aren't too bad. When you really get into the high level magic items and the clerics and the wizards and all the different spells that they can bring out, then it almost feels like you're trying to do an attrition game to get those out of the way before anything else, before you can start really hammering them pretty hard.
Let's go back to planes, and someone has asked about Slard, the planes that the Slard live on.
From Limbo.
Aren't those the D&D
Pandemonium,
alien xenomorph ripoffs, the Slard?
Was it Limbo, Pandemonium?
No, they're Limbo. The Slad are the ones that they do the whole tadpole bit.
Yeah.
So how would you portray the plane, the Slard? They're clearly monsters, but they're not evil. They're chaotic neutral.
First of all, I'd find the Dragon article in the manual of planes that talk about Limbo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
The ecology of the Slad.
Well, no. I mean, that's where the Dragon magazines really began to shine, was doing those other things.
Some of us didn't get the Dragon.
Well, I'm
magazines.
referring directly to his
Button.
There's very little first ed information on them, on the
Yeah.
that on Limbo and where they're from, and there is. It's just
Metric tons of it. You just have to have
find
Dragon.
Well,
Yeah.
and the manual of the planes,
But
which
the Dragon
manual
magazines are all online anyway, if you know how to look for them.
Oh yeah. Well,
they're not even hidden.
No.
no, they're pretty easy. I mean,
They're on the
going through-
Anna archive or whatever it is.
That's why I get on Ye Geek. Come on, Ye Geek. You should be doing 2 or 3, Dragon magazines per week, so we can all move up into the interesting ones. And like once you get past like, what is it, 60 or so is when they start getting really good.
To be fair to John, those
Yes.
videos are actually hard to make because I've been talking about making one for a long time called Geek Scraps or Geek Leavings, which is about the sci-fi stuff he leaves behind.
Yes.
And I can't get through one of them. That's why you haven't seen one come out. I'm like, I'm
What are we
bored
referring
trying to make this video. So hats off to him for making the ones he has.
What are we
I-
referring to specifically?
Oh, John does reviews of Dragon and White Dwarf, starting from the beginning of their run.
Oh dear God!
And he said he's at 13 right now, and I'm like, you're not even into the 1E stuff,
I've done 13 dragons, 7 white dwarfs, and all of the carcass crawlers so far.
Oh,
a
well, the
busy
carcass
weekend.
knowledge are pretty easy.
Hope you use protection.
But I mean, when you start looking at some of the crazy stuff that's going to come out later in there, and then especially, and these were always my favorite because they also had some good.
Here's the adventure
articles.
that was in Dragon that John hates.
No, I was referring to the whenever they had their April edition, those were always the best with all the jokes when he gets to the jock.
Sometimes they were the best. Sometimes there were.
Well, look for every.
I mean, I'm a big
article-
fan of the Blink Woolly Mammoth for sure,
Yeah.
but
Well, I love the jock. I love the valley.
its
elf.
special attack is to
Yes.
teleport into the air above you and then fall on you.
Hey, that is
Right,
Baldur's Gate 3.
I need to go and powder my nose for a minute or two. Get yourselves back on topic and behave yourselves
okay.
while I'm gone.
I admit this much is the one that they never did a lot of good, even though it's like right there was the ethereal plane. They never explained that one that well.
There's not a lot to explain. It's
It's
the ethereal.
ethereal.
Yeah, well, no, but
Well,
I mean,
Lots of Enya playing.
The ethereal plane was one of the border planes between the prime material and the rest of them, so it was just sort of a buffer.
there was the ethereal plane, and then there was the
time
astral
and
plane.
distance.
What's that?
It matched the geography of the material plane. So when you shifted to the ethereal plane, you were basically in a ghostly copy, right?
Yeah, the ethereal plane is Gygax's explanation of what happened to Frodo and Bilbo when they put the ring on. So it's the kind of supposed to be the shadow mirror realm of the.
Kind of like what the Feywild and the Shadowfell are now in 5th edition, basically. A duplicate of the prime material plane, but with theme.
What is
Sort
this
of, yeah.
5e you keep talking about?
Don't get me started, dude. I will.
Well, considering that the Shadowfell started in 3rd edition, so
Yeah. No, listen. We could go on about 5th edition being garbage as much as we like. That's fine.
yeah.
But it's good. We've all agreed at some point or another that there's a decent system underneath all that garbage paint. they
Yeah,
put
there's
on
also
it.
some good world building when they don't fuck it up,
Yeah, well, if you
and a lot of
like
stuff
the
to
Sword
pilfer
Coast,
for other games. Yeah, like I use the Feywild. I think the Feywild is a cool version of the Fairy Realm. I
Yeah,
don't use
sure.
it as a mirror of the prime material.
Well, it's not that I even hate 5e. It's mostly the fact that after a while, is to get it what I want, which is more of an OSR style. I'm just better off playing a different game, at the end of the day. So
I
that's,
know extra
that's
planar
the-
adventures do make for good stuff, and they've been hinting at them
Yeah.
since the
Never did
beginning. With the cover of the DMG, you've got that Efreet on there with a bunch of with a
The City of
adventurer
Brass
in his hands and the City of Brass on the back.
Oh,
well, we
I
now know what powdering of the nose means in England.
yeah. Well, but I mean, and
Definitely
that's where I
what it
think.
meant in 1980s America.
Well, but I think that's also what happened with that. The problem really is that when you got Queen of the Demon Web Pits, it felt underwhelming for the Abyssal Plane.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna disagree with all of that. And I'm going to
Oh,
say
okay.
why I disagree with all of that. When I played through Queen of the Demon Web Pips, it was terrifying. We were in high school, and our DM was really good at describing things and bringing it to life for us and making us feel like, wow. Any basic description needs to be embellished upon by the DM. If you are in a position where you think that the book has to do everything for you, you're a 5e player now, and enjoy that, because that's exactly the mentality that has taken over D&D now. Everything's written, everything's laid out, everything's decided for you. I prefer the much, much, much better way of, as I always say, the X1 Isle of Dread description of the known world, where everybody gets a paragraph and the rest of it's up to you as the DM to make up that shit as you go. And then make the game your own and make it exciting and make it interesting. So describe the Demon Web Pits however the hell you want to. Describe the Ethereal Plane however the hell you want to. Just make it interesting.
Here's
Make it
where I
fun.
come into that, though. You look at X1,
Yes.
and when we picked up X1, I'd imagine we'd have been familiar with 1,000 Years BC and The Land That Time Forgot and things like that. In terms of old films, as kids, we were nerds and we would have all gone through a dinosaur phase. And the whole idea of
Gone through? I think I'm still trying to find the other end
There
of
we
that.
go.
The other
So-
side of that.
Sorry, which phase?
The dinosaur phase.
dinosaur
Never had
phase.
one and never will, but that's me.
No.
I'm still there.
But we
You have restored your reputation as a contrarian.
That's
Thank you.
right.
I worked hard on it. I've been saving up for the last
what is
25
he bringing
minutes.
out? What is he bringing out
But-
here?
But we had something tangible and something that had been clearly defined by the source, the inspiration that led us into the hobby, to fall back on to help us. And thus, in a module like Isle of Dread, it is certainly when I was a kid, embellishing it wasn't difficult. The ideas were there for us to build upon because we had that inspiration, we had that grounding, there was even though it was obviously clearly a pulp fantasy island, there was enough. I don't want to say enough verisimilitude in the way it was laid out to give us those building blocks.
It felt familiar enough. That's
That's right. That's the word. Yeah. But Q1 was just a hodgepodge of weirdness. And yeah, I'd probably have a decent shot at running it fairly competently nowadays. But 13, 14, 15-year-old me would have been utterly lost with it. Utterly lost. Because it just didn't help you. It didn't help you at all. And part of a module should be there for you to build upon, but it should also help.
But you're talking about a module versus a manual or an article about the Demon Web Pits or a description of the Ethereal. That's apples and oranges at this point.
Well, I'm talking about two modules here: Q1, Queen of the Demon Web Pits,
Yeah.
and X1, Isle of Dread.
Never played X1, so I can't tell you. I don't know. It had dinosaurs, therefore I had no interest. But Q1, I relied on my DM, and he did a great job, and it was fun, and we were all engaged. And
Fair enough.
I've
But
never read the module.
Then he was better than I was when I was in my teens.
Well, I remember it talking about if you look closely at the floor, it'd have faces and stuff like that. It just felt the description that they had in the module was underwhelming, which of course allows you to do whatever else you want, but it just didn't feel quite the
well. And
famous.
here's the thing: one of the oddities with the module was that the faction that was pulling the strings in the D series, the G3 and the D series, were a rogue faction. They were not a Lolth faction. She really wasn't the overall bad guy in the series until you got to Q1.
Yeah, but there's a lot of TSR politics and stuff that went into that change up though. So
Probably, yeah.
We never made it to the end. We died, so I don't know.
That's all editorial nonsense that changed the flow of the campaign, as opposed to a matter of intentional design being bad.
Yeah. Well, Q1 was written by David Sutherland from Gygax's notes, and that was one of the issues with it.
Yeah,
it was that was a problem.
Yeah, but Gygax was still part of D&D when Q1 was out. It's
Part of D&D, but he was kind of
in LA, wasn't he?
I don't think he was in LA yet. LA was a little later, but he was more heading the business instead of actually doing a lot in terms of the creative stuff.
Understood.
That's just because, well, that's what happens when you make a company out of something you love and it takes off.
I mean, one of the best modules he did, WG4, Forgotten Temple of Thariston. It read like a mess. It plays really well. It's really a really, really evocative adventure, but it's really badly put together when you read it as is. It takes quite a bit of unpicking, and that sort of shows they were probably using his notes for that one, and they did it in a hurry. Anyway.
When did the Queen of the Demon Web Pits come out?
1980 is what it says.
1980.
80, was it 80?
It's 1980.
Right. Okay, so that was a little early.
But that was right after you got your 1E out, your monster manual. That was like a year or two after that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I don't know the exact reason why he wasn't the one who completed Q1, but it does feel odd to me. So, I think certainly with a fantasy game, high level play is defined by other worlds being a mover and shaker in your main world, having people at your beck and call, being a high priest or a leader of an army, that sort of thing. And it is difficult to create consistent challenges at that level. But going back to low level play, so in most fantasy games, for me, low level play is extremely engaging because it feels closer to home.
Feels adventurous.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It feels like what you and your friends used to do in the creek at the back of the property with sticks and strange voices.
You feel like
it also emulates.
You can relate. You can relate with your characters more easily, I think.
Yeah, I also think it closer emulates, at least back in the day, the stories that we grew up with, whether they were fantasy stories or not. Your classic folk tale, your folk hero. A lot of the adventures that you read about as a kid were not high fantasy world breaking heroes. They were often peasant heroes or low level, heroes of necessity. Robin Hood isn't up there, killing the demon queen. He's fighting a local tax collector.
Well, I think part of it really comes down to is, and I know you don't like talking about this, John, is after you play for a while, third level is a good place to start for me, and then really a good place to end is around 9th. I don't like those first couple of levels. If you've played the same thing over and over again, it's like, okay, look, that's just not that much fun for that first and second. By third,
if you've played those low levels over and over again, then stop dying, learn from your mistakes.
What it's kind of amusing with high level stuff is
you keep assuming that you aren't starting with new characters every time you hit 9th level. It's 9th, it's time to restart. That's but that's what I'm referring to. Is those whole things are those are the fun ones. You don't feel ultra squishy, and you're just like, okay, I'm going to die. I have nothing to invest in that first character at that low level. But at 9th level, you get 5th level spells at that point. You're pretty powerful, but you're not getting the wish. You haven't quite gotten the teleport where it makes things. And I think that to me is where that sweet spot kind of ends. Once you get to 10th level, great. But once you get to 11th, it's like, all right, I'm kind of bored. I want to do something else.
There's
Can I,
Taking
can
your
I just
twinkling
jump
fingers.
in on the tail end of that, please? Slight sidetrack, slight segue. Everything Omanal just said is why I'm so done with D&D now. Well, when you get to this level, you get this spell and you have that spell, and it's like so fucking formulaic. It's tedious to me now. It doesn't excite me anymore. It's just like, oh, you got access to third level spells now. I guess you'll be taking Fireball, will you, sir? Like it feels like there's no adventure to the game anymore. There's no excitement to the game. And I'm talking all editions at this point in time, because it just becomes a race to the level where you get the cool thing that you've been waiting to get while you made that character. And that to me is heartbreaking, bigger than any fantasy heartbreaker, because I want the game to be fun again and about the characters and about what they're doing and what they're going through, not waiting for your build to kick in. And and everyone blames 3E for it. They say it's all a third edition brought that. Nah, bullshit. Third edition didn't bring that in the game. Players were doing that with first edition. They're doing it with second edition. They do it with BX. They do it with any edition. It's the nature of that mindset. And I find for me, D&D and its relative cousins, clones, hacks, whatever you want to call it, encourage almost that with such a standardized formulaic way of doing things.
Well, mindset can be overcome.
It can, but it's exhausting.
Well, the other point is this is why I like skill-based systems, because the characters feel like they're growing organically rather than getting these big leaps.
Skill-based systems still have the same thing.
They can, but a lot
because
of them,
almost every skill-based system I've ever played, people have their checklist of skills that they're almost always going to grab. Talk to any Palladium player and ask them what the first 5 skills you want to take with a character is.
That's a level-based system.
But it's
talk to any
still
Cyberpunk player playing a solo and make sure they have this skill. They got to have their combat.
And in
sense
Star
at this
Wars,
level.
what's going to go up the fastest? Your blaster, your spaceship piloting.
Yeah.
But this way also cap out certain spells. Certain skills. I'm used to, because Star Wars, you didn't have a limit for those. A lot of systems, let's say like World of Darkness, you capped out at 5 on whatever your
well, that's just because the game doesn't go any higher than 5. And
well, there you go.
In World of Darkness, it's literally there are only 5 bubbles on the sheet.
Okay, but again, that's the point. Is you're creating that certain thing. Well, even the some of the older
But it really isn't, because proportionately speaking, in World of Darkness, each one of those bubbles is equivalent to X number of D6 in Star Wars, or X number of percentage points in a percentile system. Because World of Darkness was more of like an exponential increase system. So each dot,
but it stops
for a lot more.
That's
It does
point.
stop, but most other games also stop because it gets to a point where it costs you insane amounts of XP to go any higher.
But that's why I found characters start becoming more well-rounded, because it takes so long to get that next point, which really is in many cases not even exponential. It's just like, oh, the difference between 9 and 10 dice. Okay, what's the, or I could get like 4 more skills. I'm like, I'll go for a bunch of it. And that's where the characters become more well-rounded in many cases. But you're not really getting that much more powerful in a skill-based system in certain cases. I'm not saying that doesn't happen with all of them, but a lot of them, it kind of levels it out. You don't having this huge gap between a first level character and a 7th level character is truly exponential. With a magic user or fighter, you're just so much more capable. But in the others, it's like, okay, you don't get that much more.
I'm just going to bring up, I don't know, Dragon Quest.
I've been fascinated by that game since the first time I walked into Hobby World in Montreal and saw it sitting there, and I was like, what is this? And the guy's like, oh, it's this other D&D type game. And I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know, I'm 14.
Yeah, it was one
I'm
of the
15,
first competitor games, or attempts at a competitor game for D&D.
Yeah, then she got bought by TSR, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
But this thing, if you don't use skills for a couple of adventures, you start losing skill points. Yeah, in theory, I like that. But does it result in players gaming it a little bit and trying to ensure they use the skills, whatever the situation may be, in order to prevent that?
Yeah. Well, the other problem I have with skill-based systems, like Omanel's talking about, skill systems that have like these arbitrary caps on them, and then they make for more well-rounded characters. So not every person is well-rounded. Not every professional is well-rounded, and a system that forces me to spend my points elsewhere because I can't spend them on something useful isn't exactly a great thing for me. It's one of the problems I had with the Fantasy Flight Star Wars game is like, all right, I want to make this character. I can't make that character because I also have to take this skill and that skill and this skill and that skill because it's got this weird treed skill thing. And yeah, I had lots of points for skills, but I wanted to make a simple farmer. And by the time I took all the skills that were required in the game for my minimum starting character for the Fantasy Flight Star Wars game, I had to make basically the head of a farmer's commune co-op kind of a thing because I had to have administration skills and all these other things. I'm like, why does my farmer have all of this stuff? But so the skill-based systems have their own issues. I mean, if I'm spending points on skills because I can't spend them where I want to spend them, is it really all that great of a system?
Well, I mean, whether it's Traveler or something like else, how much are you trying to really put your skills? My point is that if it takes you 40 XP to go up one more point, and it takes you 3 XP to go through several low-level skills, then that you're not going to use all the time. That's something by well-rounding you out until the point that you say, okay, I can really pay for that one. But what it does in some cases, it makes you super specialized when you start off because you want those high-level skills. And then you go and say, okay, now I'm going to fill out all the lower-level ones. So, but your character does feel more rounded.
I also find that skill-based systems
they take forever to
they often don't make all skills useful though, and so you really end up with this is worth taking and this isn't.
Oh well, yeah, that's a Palladium thing too.
No, that's a skill based. Call of Cthulhu. All right, let's call Call of Cthulhu. How useful is it for me to have horseback riding?
Depends. On when do you play?
But what is more useful for me to have? Psychology. Spot hidden.
Yeah.
Library use.
So if I'm choosing between those two, why am I taking horseback riding, especially if I'm playing in 1920 Chicago?
Okay, so let me interject. One, I can get you for 1920 Chicago, but let's say you're playing in the Victorian era or any era of Call of Cthulhu. Spot hidden, library use, and what was the other one? Of psychology. All of that's just going to lead to me reading shit, which is going to lead to me going insane. Because if you read anything, even a fucking gum wrapper in Call of Cthulhu, save for your sanity. But that horse can get me the fuck away from all this crazy shit as fast as humanly possible.
Well, what I'm saying is
the gum wrapper is you're reading the ingredients. That'll always drive you crazy.
It's a more a matter like what I'm saying is like skill systems usually come down to.
I get your point. I'm just
better or worse choices. Like
well, I don't disagree with that, but it also
animal
tells you
handling because that'll come up often.
Well,
when you're trying to infiltrate the cultist compound and they've got guard dogs, it might actually.
Or they throw a snake at you.
Well, no. I mean, let's be honest. If you're playing Pulp Cthulhu, did Indiana Jones use horseback riding?
Yeah, but I don't play Pulp Cthulhu.
But my point is that the game determines what's going on. Is any other game, you take firearms. In Call of Cthulhu, you take something else. I mean, just it's not that it isn't there, but I don't disagree with you. But that's why
I take the bus away from the game and go fucking play by myself at home. Truly hate that game.
It's the most wonderful RPG ever invented.
But again, each game has its own focus. If I'm going to be playing a combat game, then I will focus on combat skills, which is kind of what D&D is anyway. But especially 5e once you start getting through there. But the later one, if I'm doing Call of Cthulhu, I know that I'm generally not going to fight too much, even though it did come in very useful when we were playing as soldiers. Yes, you're saying Nameless Heart. I'm just thinking of the Reign of Terror one that you had, which was like,
yes.
Did use, how often do you need an axe skill? Well, I needed an axe skill because I was wielding an axe.
Absolutely, because you didn't have your gun with you. No, quite.
Well, the other,
What were you
point
wielding the axe to do, though?
it chopped off and killed a vampire. So.
Oh, okay. I mean, fighting with an axe is one thing, but I'm pretty sure most people can just figure out how to knock a door down with an axe.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but that was
they were decommissioned from the army, and they had to find other weapons.
Yeah. So it was again, but would that have been useful in most cases? Not really. But the other thing I do like about Call of Cthulhu is even if you're going up and you're not going insane as much as you think you should, you do have to roll. So you have to roll successfully, and then you have to roll unsuccessfully to get that skill up. So it does help the fact that your odds of being successful are low initially, but your odds of going up if you are.
He went. He's back again.
Cut out again.
I know. Well, but I don't know how RuneQuest is. I've read bits and pieces of it.
RuneQuest is sort of halfway between D&D and Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I've read it. I don't know how I feel about it because I've never played it.
Closest I've come is playing the old ElfQuest RPG, which was done by Chaosium, and they just used their system du jour for it. So I know the system pretty well.
Right.
But
I'm going to quickly dive in because Bear appears to have gone away from his keyboard.
I'm sorry, Bear's done what now?
No, damn it.
Bear's eating his supper, if you don't mind.
Okay. You're running against the Dark Master, and you said about level games and things happening at certain levels and all that sort of stuff. Now, Against the Dark Master is pretty much a MERP clone, isn't it?
Yeah.
And would it be fair to say, for example, that your average warrior class will pump points into chainmail armor because that's affordable and doable at low levels and is the best armor that a warrior can have at low levels. And as soon as they've pumped points into that, they'll start pumping points into plate armor. And for most warriors, there will be a certain point at which plate becomes viable. And for most warriors, it'll be around the same sort of time.
Is there a question in there?
I'm just saying that sometimes in these skill-based games, certain points are... You were saying about characters wanting to get to level 5 so they get viable. But there are certain points in these skill-based games where in MERP and logically against the Dark Master, if it is as close as it appears to be, there's a point at which the characters will gain access to plate armor, which is a big jumping point.
Are you trying to suggest that some skill systems might actually mirror level-based systems anyway?
Yes, basically, yes.
Yeah. You are correct, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Good. Glad I am. Wanted to provoke an argument, didn't happen.
So, it doesn't matter what game you're playing. They're going to be min-maxers. They're going to be game exploiters. They exist.
And they'll min-max, even when they don't min-max the combat, they'll min-max somewhere.
They'll min-max playing Trivial Pursuit if they can, okay? That's just their nature.
Going back to something you had said earlier, though, Bear, I think that's part of the problem D&D has isn't necessarily a problem with D&D. It's just a problem with the age of gaming in general. Because with my long gaming career, I guarantee you going into any game, I'm probably going to be looking at it with the eyes of an experienced gamer who's going to be looking at tricks or not, or, going to be going into it with a similar style as I might even with D&D. So I don't know if it's that D&D is necessarily stale and boring and predictable, or if it's just that longtime players go into games and look for things.
I don't know. Maybe it's a mix of things, I think. I just think that I miss playing. I miss role-playing. I miss discussions having some level of that to them versus everything I see these days is just mechanics, arguing mechanics. Like, good God. Like, there's so much more to this game than mechanics.
That's everything, though. I mean, not to diminish
know.
that.
I'm not
opinion,
saying
but I mean,
it's
no. I mean, like
exclusive.
it's part of. That's a sad part of modern society, I think, and that I think gaming has just been swept along with it. Fandom wants to overanalyze everything. Car enthusiasts want to scream and argue about everything. Clothes, video games, whatever it is, we're so absolutely wired into a network to make our opinion known that the minutia is what comes that what makes or breaks our arguments, not just general opinions.
Is your commie ass dissing consumerism, sir?
I hate capitalism, but
No.
You take that shit back to Stalingrad, sir.
Let me correct myself. I hate rampant out of control capitalism.
Yeah.
Healthy capitalism is a good thing. Everything I have around me is from capitalism.
Hello.
No, I don't like that word. When everyone says just capitalism, it's like corporatism. Damn it. Anyway, no, but
fuck, I agree with Omanal. Well, time to kill myself.
Well, yeah, a funny little anecdote. My brother actually managed to get on CNN as part of the Occupy movement in Seattle, and he's just sitting there in his suit, and they pulled him out of the crowd because he was in a suit and looked pretty presentable, and he's well educated and well read, and he's and he was telling me afterwards, he's like, yeah, they interviewed me, and it's this whole Occupy movement thing, and it's like, what they don't understand is like, I'm a capitalist. He's like, I just don't agree with corporatism, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So,
well, but
not to get off point too much, but
no.
my point towards Bear was like, I think that's just everything nowadays.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, even if it's cooking, even if it's baking cupcakes, somebody's gonna fucking argue with you over measure my weight, measure by measurement. Which one's better?
Measure with your gut.
If you don't measure by actual weight, then you're doing it wrong. You're doing a disservice. You're imprecise. There's going to be that guy. Always that guy.
You know what I tell my son is you taste what you're cooking, and you alter accordingly. And the problem I think all too often is like you're saying this is everyone's arguing everything without actually tasting what they're making.
I just want to bring up this comment from Doof Money. I think this comment has just won the stream for the evening because I think it's wonderful. Having been on a lot of golfing stag do's and walked onto the golf course at 9-10 a.m., having been up at 3 a.m. in a hotel bar, delirious. I would call just the entire. You don't care what the score is. You don't care what you get. You're stood there going. I'm still.
You laugh at that, but that's why I used to take dates going to miniature golf, is I could tell the personality. If they were getting very frustrated and angry because they weren't meeting the par, I'm like, this is not someone I want to date anymore. It's a great way to weed out your potential partners.
John, you just gave me an idea for a character if I ever play D&D with you now. I'm going to play a fighter who is Peter O'Toole levels of drunk, because why would I do this sober? That's complete madness.
I think that character would be absolutely fantastic. I'd be really happy with that character.
You know what you need to do is you need to play Ozzy Osbourne as a bard and, completely drunk.
Ozzy Osbourne is
there I am disagreeing with Omen again. The universe has righted itself.
Ozzy Osbourne is a maximum level bard. I'm sorry, but he is.
I'm sorry, he's a skald, not a bard.
A bard is a subclass of skald in 2nd edition. It's a kit.
And this is why I stopped playing. No.
So Bear just wants to play a dwarf. So
Dear God, no. They're short.
I am from the town that gave birth to Ozzy Osbourne. My boss had a house where his back garden backed onto Tony Iommi's property. So
I'm just thinking he got banned from Texas for peeing on the Alamo for a while. where he was apparently wearing a dress and he didn't know.
But I mean, everything Ozzy does is high-level bard adventuring, though. It's just influencing people.
Does that include the random mumbling and shouting for Sharon?
Absolutely.
And his mysterious burrito.
Because everybody,
Sharon,
Everybody.
My burrito.
where's my
I was
burrito? I'm the
thinking-
flying
I was
Prince of
thinking-
You don't
Darkness.
shut in the bed again, Shannon.
I was just thinking
Sharon, I blew my save.
that Yale Geek was going to treat us, as if we were all part of Black Sabbath, and he had become Ozzy Osbourne after he got that 1,000 views on his race, video.
I do want to call out that video. That is the most hits I've had on a non-short video for ever, which is wonderful. Thank you. If you're in chat and you've just joined the channel because of that video,
You talking about the playing non-human races one?
Yes.
Absolutely,
Video.
yes. Absolutely. It had 300 hits in an hour, which is...
I wonder how many people came in there hoping that they were going to see this guy going like, hyper-conservative opinion about race and blah, blah, blah. They're like, they just wanted to be mad at you. But they came in there like, oh, he was nice. Click.
And he's making sense.
Well,
Hopefully.
let's not go crazy.
Yeah,
It's
let's
not about how much sense you made.
Wait. How many hours of viewing did you get off of that?
About enough hours for about 5 days, which is brilliant. Which is it's made me hit my target for the next month. Anyhow, yes,
you might make like $5 or $6 off of that one, the way this is going.
I worked out I'm going to make about a pound off it.
You'd be lucky if you make a pound on average for about every 1,000 views nets you roughly around 25 cents, maybe.
Yeah.
I just find it amusing that everybody wants to, like Bear was saying earlier, everyone's just screaming bitch about like, oh, not all dwarves are the same. Okay, and what did you just say about Texans last week?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dirty History and Hobbies. Thank you very much indeed. You are appreciated. Anyhow, shall we get back on our topic of high-level characters?
At 2 minutes and 20 seconds into the stream, you are a bold, adventurous man, sir.
For those who are new to our streams, this is the point when things tend to go very, very much off topic. And given that we normally start streams with talking about our recent games, and tonight we dive straight into the topic and didn't do that half-hour blab about our recent games, I think now's about the time to talk about our recent games.
Oh, okay.
And all my games have been low-level ones, which does fit the topic. Low-level games versus high-level games. I haven't run any high-level games for ages because most gaming happens, let's face it, most gaming happens at low level.
I'm going to bring up another thing, too, which is, as much as we talk about high and low level, the amount of time and effort to create a high-level character that gels well with the party is enormous when you get really far up there.
It depends on the system you're using, to be honest. In old school D&D, it takes no time at all.
Well, I mean, if you start for a fighter, but you have to get equipment, you have to get all of these magic items, you have to get the part with the spells, and then you're going through it. Which ones do it takes a lot longer than the 5 or 10 minutes if you're going to go at the high.
It takes an hour. You sit down with your DM, don't you? You sit down with your DM for an hour. And you come up with you've got to come up with somebody who, and I don't like starting characters at high levels. I create high level characters for one shots, but in campaigns I'd much rather players always start at first level and manage their own folder of characters to build up to whatever level they're going to. I mean, if we get to 5th level, if a character gets to 5th level and the rest of the part, what am I trying to say? So imagine a group of 6 players, and they go into sort of a dungeon at level. It's level 4 of the dungeon, and most of the players by this time have been playing 3 or 4 characters, got them to levels 2 to 4. One player has got a character to level 6 and has completely neglected any other characters. If that player then loses that level 6 character, it's on them. They have to start from level 1 again.
Oh yes, absolutely. I don't care if you're
Absolutely.
level 15 in the campaign. Your new character starts at level 1, and let's see how well he survives, and let's see if the other people will keep him alive and all that fun stuff as you learn how the character works. Because you're going to shoot up those levels fast on the amounts of XP they're going to be dropping at that table. So you're being power leveled in City of Heroes. You're going to do, but at least you'll be learning what the shit does, as opposed to walking in with this I have all these things, and I've never played this before. Sorry, Sean. Sean wants to say something. He's doing that lean in.
No, I'm actually looking at the rain coming down.
I'm gonna bring this up, which is, as much as we talk about those low level, I agree with Bear on here. It doesn't take that much to farm low level characters. It's like, well, you know what? I'm gonna bring my 7th level magic user, cleric, or whatever. I'm gonna farm a couple of these first level characters for probably a month or so, and then they'll be at 3rd or 4th level, and then we can start adventuring again as like really adventuring. And I think that sometimes what people forget is, and apparently they used to do this, is that they would farm those. Is like I've said, is a 5th level or magic user fights about as well as a 2nd level fighter.
Yeah.
So they have about a similar number of hit points. So it's I think sometimes when we look at stuff, it's everyone has to be together in the modern era. But I know, again, looking at Dark Sun, I like their character trees that they did in there. Oh, you get 4 characters.
And off he goes again.
Gets to go up 1 level as well. So, yeah.
I like the fact that he doesn't notice, so he keeps talking while he's gone.
Yeah, I know.
And we're like,
maybe because it's like 5 seconds, like, darn it. But no, I mean, the character trees are actually pretty nice, which would say you get 4 characters part of your troop. You go rotate them around. At your highest level character, as any one of them gains a level, they can pick a lower character to go up 1 level equivalent. And keep them close. But boy, if you burn through your characters, you're all starting at 1st level again. So
how about this? How about this? Hang on. How about this? The retainers.
Yep.
Give them control of the retainers as characters.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And
absolutely.
then they can level them up as they go. And then if one of them dies off, welcome to a retainer.
Well, that
is literally what henchmen are for.
Yeah.
I thought they were for opening doors and shit. I didn't realize they were there just to be body bags.
No, henchmen, well, at least in First Ed, I don't know how the others will do it, but in First Ed, the henchman is literally like your right-hand man. And you use the henchman when the main character is out of commission or if you want to give him a break or whatever. And the henchman, you literally gives half of the gold and treasure to the boss. Right, so your main guy is still leveling, but you're also playing the henchman. So it's a good way to have multiple characters.
I think Dirty History and Hobbies does make a point here, and this is where I do like the sandbox approach, where you have a base and you strike out on various adventures based on your local area, and you go further afield when you get to higher levels. But certainly in our OSE game last Saturday, there is a potential situation. The current characters are now lost. So next time we play that adventure, there are logistical issues with getting other characters involved.
Are they? I don't know. I just know that we went back to town, which comes back to
No, this was my Caverns of Krampus game when they decided to go through various portals right at the end in their infinite wisdom, and the portals were taking them all over the place, and then it suddenly dawned on them they weren't quite where they started, and that's where we ended the session. So,
well, John, I was just thinking about when you're saying what game did you play? John wants to brag about our fight against the little demon, so.
Oh, absolutely. I decapitated him doing maximum damage. Marvelous. Anyway, I think, Michael, the point of farming characters, it was the idea that a level 5 to 6 character would accompany a group of level 1 or 2 characters in the dungeons. And they'd farm those lower level characters up to level 2, 3, 4 to make them more relevant quite quickly. Because they'd be accompanying a level 5 character, like a level 5 magic user in particular. So you'd intentionally send a higher level character in with a group of low level characters to farm XP.
Yeah, this adventures, for example, had back then too. They had the wide variety in adventure level, because this is for 4 to 7. It levels 4 to 7 is this module.
I'm going to bring up one other thing, though, is if you also look at the general XP advancement, it was double XP for every level. So, when you're looking at it, literally the distance to go from a 5th level magic user to a 6th level magic user was the same as going from 1st through 4th almost. So characters could catch up very quickly to those if they were far.
Depends on the class.
Yeah, but it's pretty close when you start looking at it. It's like, oh look, it's going to take me 8,000 XP to go up to this 4th level, and then the other one's like, well, I started at first. You're like, yeah, but you'll catch up to me very quickly. That's why the bard.
I was going to say the bard is such an oddity as a result of that. Yes.
Well, but the bard is not that far behind. I mean, yeah, he goes up, but when you look at it, is going through that, the 6th level fighter, the 8th level thief, and then by the time he gets to 9th level bard, the rest of the party is probably only at 10th or 11th level. So he's very close. That's what I was trying to say for that. That's part of the reason I think that they did the doubling of the XP, was so characters could catch up quickly to those higher level characters, and then they could adventure again.
Well, level disparity in the earlier games, in earlier D&D, wasn't as big a deal. Like 5th Ed is designed where everybody's got to be roughly the same. Whereas you play 1st Ed, you could have a group of 6th, 7th level characters. One guy dies, starts fresh with a 1st level character. Yeah, he's a little behind. He's the rookie on the team, but he can still contribute. He can still be a part of it. And as you say, he will rock right back up and catch up.
Well, in XP,
and the chances of you having a straight 6th level party, anyways, is going to be pretty low in old D&D because the magic user is not going to be as high a level as everybody else.
but he's still like only one level behind in many cases. But the other point is that since you get XP for gold, a full share allows him to move up pretty quickly. And then said, you know what, let's say you need 2,000 XP. Well, if everyone's splitting like 4,000 gold, you're like, well, you know what, you can't gain more than that level, so we'll just stop you here, and then we'll take the rest. It's that's your share. Okay, cool. I still made it to 2nd level in one adventure. Anyway, so let's talk about the games we're all playing, right? Isn't that what we're supposed to get back to?
Yeah, we're in the last half hour. Right. So. Games in. No, I'm not going to start this. I'm going to end this. That's my second half pint of wine. So things are going to flow a little now. Well, go on, Eli. Have you played recently?
Only in Saxus's game this last Sunday.
How did it go?
I don't think he remembers what low levels we're at. Because we've been marching to this village to take out these Kuo-toa because they're a pox upon our land that we're trying to conquer and take over. They were here first, mind you, but we have better plans for the land. But
colonial nature.
Well, they are slavers and sacrificing the sea elves of the region because they are impure. So
they're elves.
And worshiping Dagon. So these Kuo-toa that were basically, we marched 2-prong. We had a flotilla coming in by sea, and then a group of the PCs and some soldiers from the fort coming by land. And so we get there and we're scouting the village, and then Saxus just starts dropping tokens on the board on the battle mat. I'm like, all right, there's about 10 of them. Cool. There are more. They're still coming. there are even more now. There's like 100 and some odd Kuo-toa in this village, and we're only 4th level. So, I mean, we have some grogs with us and an NPC who we may or may not have regretted taking with us, but it is Saxus. But
I will say now, I mean, I know we tormented him playing Shadow of the Demon Lord. I know there were a couple of, I mean, certainly, I don't know if General Nut is watching. I know he's got health issues. Hope you get better, General Nut. But I know General Nut had some issues with the way that the Shadow of the Demon Lord powers increased really quickly and oddly in the game. But the Shadow of the Demon Lord game we played with Saxius was an absolute, for me, it was an absolute joy. I ignored the mechanics of the game. They were irrelevant. And it was the whole tone of the game, the whole way in which we trolled Saxius the entire time, and he trolled us back in return. It was the silly comedy, the darkness in there as well. It was constant dark humor. I thoroughly enjoyed playing in a Saxius game. And,
I'm pretty sure he's just counting on the fact that so far we've played very tactically. Also, I know he has his world set. It's a very, he plays with a high level of verisimilitude. So what is there at that village is what was always going to be there at that village.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
That said, our player choices along the way may have affected things, but yeah, we're
I don't know if
not
Saxius
going to
was. I mean, what was great about playing with him was, for me, was the fact that I don't think he was prepared for the fact that we were all going to play goblins, and we were all going to act like goblins in very random ways, in very non-human ways, in very stupid ways at times. We were constant pranksters. We didn't understand human ideas. But he just rolled with it. He just said from the start, okay, where do you live? In a great big barn, like a massive hen house, overrun with hundreds of goblins. Okay, so who's in charge? An old goblin shaman witch woman. What's her name? Nanny Herpes, because it's a good goblin name. And it just went from there. Yeah. Gingerbeard was playing a goblin who believed he was a superhero, who was wearing a bird outfit throughout, and he called himself the Pheasant, but the outfit he was wearing was a parrot, and he slept on a perch at the top of the barn, and he'd be there going, I survey the pheasant. The pheasant surveys the scene and all that sort of while perched up there pretending to be asleep. It was just constant silliness. It was just constant silliness, but it worked for the game.
Well, everybody was in for it too. So I mean,
absolutely.
It would have been highly annoying if you came in with that character in a serious campaign.
Absolutely. But he rolled with it, and he adapted the game and wrote the game around what we were playing as time went by, which was really good. Really, really good. Anyway, Sean.
The only game I played this week was yours, the OSE on Saturday. I've been away, as you know.
I feel honored.
My regular games have been I'll put on hiatus. Actually, that's not true. I'm a liar. I'm a dirty liar. I did my OSE game on Sunday, off day. Yeah, that's me.
So you buttered me up and then you ran me down again.
Yeah, sorry. It's this lizard brain I've got because the dog's got me in a different sleeping schedule that I'm used to. But my OSE game was also played on Sunday. It was we moved it from Friday to Sunday so that one of my semi-regular players' partner could join in, as well as the Dungeon Minister came back for another guest appearance.
Oh, cool!
So because we played at his place, and that's out on the west end of the city, which meant Father Aaron didn't have an hour and a half drive. He only had a half an hour drive. So that was fun. And then, yes, the other game I played was your OSE game on the Saturday.
I'd like you to do a summary of that rather than me. I'd like you to talk about how you finished up the game.
Well, my half-orc character, who's inching towards level 2, you managed to cripple and remove him from the game, so he didn't get enough XP.
He got bitten by a giant centipede and failed his saving throw.
It was all your fault.
That's how heroic he is.
He targeted me. I feel oppressed.
You said you were opening the crate crate number 2, which housed a family of giant centipedes. So they tried to bite you. Actions have consequences.
Yes. So Sarketh is going on his 9th session at level 1. I just keep missing the scores. Then, of course, as we're exploring the lower levels with, I brought in my secondary character, my mage, who was exploring the lower levels, and there were some teleporting arches that we didn't know were teleporting arches until it was too late. We mapped some stuff, and then we ended up in a room with a sarcophagus, which is where we ended. And John, in his efforts to taunt me with leveling up conventions, gave me enough XP to level that character, but I can't capitalize on that until we get home. So, yeah.
The thing is, did I not give you clues that the archers were behaving oddly?
Yeah.
And did you not ignore them?
Yeah. Well, we're explorers. We were trying them out. I'm not the only one in that group.
No, that's true. That is very true. Anyway, Bear, any games?
Got 2 Bastard Sword playtests going on and 3 Against the Dark Master campaigns.
So you're doing
How many?
5 games a night or 5 games a week?
No, everything is an alternate.
Okay.
So Monday, Friday, alternate, and Saturday, every other Saturday. We play.
Okay, I wasn't sure. It just I was like, wow, good job of getting 5 in there.
Dude, no.
Okay.
I
don't
have
know.
life.
It's because we're getting old, isn't it? It does get tiring, doesn't it? We don't quite have the energy that we had when we were teenagers.
Maybe.
It's that.
Bye, Omanal. Hi, Omanal.
Again.
I know. Sorry about that.
I feel like we need to get the Blu-ray the Bluetooth Connect sound to go with his coming and going.
I'm not sure.
I
It
need
helps
to-
that much.
Manal, have you played any games recently, or have you just been on people's streams talking about them?
Well,
Doesn't play games.
Let's see. I came back from vacation, so I was playing the GURPS game, which I always give Bo Paints Minis hell of GURPS. I was like, oh, yeah, they're great games. So then there's GURPS. You know,
GURPS, a math book that pretends to be a game.
As someone that does math for his job, it's less fun than doing my own work. And so, the system's fine. I just hate character creation. So we did the GURP stuff, getting back into there, and apparently my dog regained consciousness, which is good, from the spaceship. And so there was that one. And then, of course, the next morning I played with Geek, and then we decided to play a little longer while the rest of the team left. Sorry, Sean. And so we got an extra 100 experience points when Geek decapitated said character while Angus was running around trying to wrap up the demon after he borrowed the hammer, and then we replaced the hammer, and then we all left. So I guess we're back in town again. So that wasn't too bad with my plus 10% experience points. I got 440 from the session. So at that rate, I'll just assume I'm making about 100 an hour whenever I play. And
I think Gene was quite generous with XP for that session.
I don't disagree. You never sure. It was better than the other part. Of course, as I was playing fishing for platinum. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that. Yes, we were dropping your character into a pool, which was quite a challenging environment because we found platinum pieces at the bottom of it, and you were the one who was being dropped in. Oh no, was it you? I was volunteered. And I nearly died from hitting my head on a D4 damage. You did, yes, you did. Yeah. Yes, that's correct. And we kept dropping you in, yeah. And grab more coins, and we'll fish you out again. And we'd be like, okay, right. So after fish you back in again. After I nearly died with my intelligence of 4, but 16 wisdom and 16 strength. There was that one, and so then we fought the. Then of course when Sean had to leave, we finished off with the minor demon. Or whatever it was, whatever the hell it is. That demon we were really, really scared of was a one-hit dice creature. It was, and Geek did 10 damage because he rolled maximum with his sword. In the meantime, Angus, we wouldn't have fought it, except it decided to start chewing on the rope. If it hadn't chewed on the rope, we would have probably left it alone. Sean, we spent 2 sessions avoiding that
thing that looked like a statue that would fire things out of its eyes, and it turned out to be a single mains demon.
I don't know. It was pretty nasty with those 3 attacks. I mean, you got slashed. My character could have died from 1 slash, which, to be fair, at 4 hit points, you're almost dead, from 1 slash anyway. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Manies are weak if you have magic weapons, but if you don't, you can't hurt them.
Well, fortunately, 2 of the characters did. So we did that one. And then I played on Weird World War II's gaming miniatures, where I got to play the pygmies and the giant snakes and tree men versus the tiki statues, basically, versus the Japanese invasion and his deep ones crawling up. So those were my games. I'm not sure that counts as a role playing, but it's story based miniature gaming.
It's gaming.
Yes. So.
Yeah. Hey, Eli.
Hmm.
Do you feel there's not enough pointless math in your RPG? Ask your GM if GURPS is right for you.
I can't be bothered to play GURPS. One of my players in my group is a major GURPS guy. I'm like, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm never gonna play it with you.
All One said he'd be down for a faster Star Trek game.
We played. Insert name here is wrong, and he just has to accept that he's wrong and live with that in his life.
I will say this much, though. We did have a long discussion about Dark Sun with Shadow and Sun about that. So that was a...
just can't get away from that fucking game. Like, everywhere I go, Shadowrun comes up. Like, what is it?
No. Dark Sun.
Dark Sun. Okay, I heard Shadowrun. I'm like, Jesus.
Oh,
Christ.
it was Shadow and
Sons.
Yes,
Shadow and Sons? Oh.
He's a YouTuber. He's a YouTuber.
Yeah.
He often pops in our streams. He's a nice guy.
So we were discussing. He was looking at one view of Dark Sun, and I said, okay, and I reread all the stuff I read 30 years ago. And I'm like, you know what? It's not as bleak as everyone makes it out to be. I think it's just, I think that people make it much worse than it really is, because you're gonna play just like you do on a BX game. You got hit, run away. Think smart. Stop.
I was trying to bring up what All Ones was saying here. He'd be down for a faster Star Trek game. So if anyone's running a faster Star Trek game, think of All Ones. I will never be running a faster Star Trek game because I am a absolute heathen who does not like sci-fi. But my Discord channel is open for people to run whatever game they want on it. So if anyone wants to run a faster Star Trek game on my Discord channel, they are more than welcome to do so. And I will advertise it for them on my channel.
Most of Foss's versions of the Klingons comes from that book, Bear.
See this guy's name right here, John M. Ford? Sadly no longer with us, but he was the roommate of the guy who wrote the FASA Klingon supplement. That's why most of this is in there, and it's fantastic, and they're great Klingons. And insert name here needs to read this so that he can understand that samurai biker Vikings are stupid.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Good, it's sci-fi. It'll give you hives. Stay away.
Yeah, I am the rare nerd who just doesn't gel with sci-fi.
Oh, no, there's plenty of you.
Yeah,
there's plenty of people who pick one camp or the other.
Yeah,
I'll play Paranoia because it's very funny and it's a complete piss take, and it's a great one shot. But that's the only sci-fi I'll play, unless you class Call of Cthulhu as sci-fi.
Only, well, there is that version that's like sci-fi-esque.
There's just straight Call of Cthulhu. If you go to Peterson's Nightmares, he's got one Call of Cthulhu scenario that takes place on a spaceship on its way to like some far off star.
That'll be a scenario I ignore.
Sandy Peterson himself is on record as saying he doesn't play in any of the historical time frames. He plays in modern, or when he wanted to write the game, he actually didn't want to write it in the 20s. But Chaos Sim's like, no, it has to be as close as spot on to the actual fiction as possible.
I mean, no matter how much I love 1890s and 1920s, 1890s Gaslight era Cthulhu is for me the best era of Cthulhu. 1920s is fabulous as well. But objectively, and I'm saying this because it's my channel, so I can say this and I can say this and back it up. objectively, the best Call of Cthulhu adventure ever published is a modern one. It is as simple as that. And that adventure is Forget Me Not. It is just superb.
I don't remember.
Hey!
Stop my sides.
Hey! Did you play? You didn't play Forget Me Not, though, did you? No.
Yes, I did.
Oh, you did? Oh, yeah, and Sean did as well. Sean did.
Yeah, yes, because that's where Gingerbeard was coming up with. I will say this much: regardless of whatever you play, if you get to play with Gingerbeard and John, it will be a good game because they're just fun to look.
Gingerbeard sort of slept through the Call of Cthulhu game I ran.
Oh, that's
yeah, Gingerbeard. With
He was
Gingerbeard.
tired.
Eli, did you ever run
in
that
a
session you
one-shot.
did with us for another group?
I haven't run anything else again since. I mean, I did it and I had a great time, but I just haven't been able to find the time to run another game. I do want to run that one again.
Well,
Gingerbeard will be the first to admit that you have to give him a character with a quirk to engage him in the scenario. He's not very good at coming up with his own characters that will work. With
So being the local farmer probably wasn't the best bet for
him.
him.
No.
Well, as the sergeant, he was the straight man in our realm of or reign of terror game.
That pushed him out of his comfort zone because when I ran him through Amaranthine Desire, he single-handedly caused the Great Britain to lose World War II.
Okay.
Well, I mean, admittedly, in the one I ran, he had the least interesting character out of all four.
Just ensure that Gingerbeard gets the character that's very interesting. Then
because you were the trucker with the low intelligence. John was the cop. It was the local sheriff, and then was it Shield of Eyes? I think was playing.
Yes.
Was the biker. And it's funny, I gave everybody a chance to select their characters. I half expected Gingerbeard to pick the biker. I figured,
just fix it so you know which character is going to be the odd one, and then give that one to Gingerbeard, and he will come up with something bonkers for it, and it'll be something that'll make you go, "Way, that's good."
I'm thinking about one of the notes I took away from that one was I think I'm gonna do a few more pre-gens so it's not just exactly the number for the number of players.
Yeah. I think that you need twice as many pre-gens as there are players, so it gives them a bit more of a choice. It also gives you a different feel every time you play.
Well, and part of the thing is running that scenario though. I wanted to have because it's the whole setup for the scenario is a chance encounter on a isolated highway. Yeah, it's basically
on the dark desert highway.
So having I mean, it's still going to be 4 players, so I just got to figure out. It'll just still be the four characters they pick. And you're right. I mean, that could be very highly.
I want to play, Eli. I'm going to go against my absolute dislike and hatred of Call of Cthulhu. I want to play, and I promise to be a good player and not be there just to disrupt shit.
Okay. Well, if I run it again, you'll be on the list.
Well,
it is a Call of Cthulhu modern scenario
that disrupts shit.
What was that?
Just to be a punk, he's going to give Bear a character that's raison d'etre is to disrupt shit.
You're playing the anarchist punk.
No. He's going to be the suburban housewife. That's what he's going to be playing for Bear.
Okay, listen, Omanal, your fucking fantasies about me are your own business, sir. I feel awkward about what you just said, and honestly, that was scary, man. That was scary.
No, after that playthrough, though,
only because you have 4 little ones in the back that are all throwing gum in your hair. No.
I think number one thing that I need to do is make sure that the critter is slightly more
For
imposing
fuck's sake, John.
because Sean's character with believable police body armor was near invulnerable to that.
So I will say this much: anyone I haven't played with Eli, anyone that plays with John and Call of Cthulhu will have a very good experience.
It's Call of
John just
Cthulhu.
played
How
this
can you have a
idiot
good
farmer
experience?
who believed in conspiracy theories.
Well, what's that?
His truck driver character was an idiot who believed in all these. The first thing he says when they get out of the truck, "It's Bigfoot, it's Sasquatch."
You know what I'm flashing?
It's a Sasquatch.
Oh no!
Yeah, I play an idiot very well. I will admit that now. I play an idiot very well.
Very well.
Yes.
You play.
Yes.
But no, I'm going to say that if John's running a Call of Cthulhu game, jump in if you can. You'll enjoy it. Most of the things take about 2 or 3 sessions.
Usually, yeah.
And then they're over, and then they're done.
Yeah.
Usually, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
dude, I'll play. If I have the time, I'll happily play on something because I fucking hate campaigns as a player. I don't want to be in a campaign.
Oh yeah, he does one shots, except for the I think the longest one you've been running is the Orient Express one, right?
Yes. And I will pick that up some point, probably around Christmas, to try and actually run the full Orient Express. But that's going to be a long-term commitment. But I like Call of Cthulhu for one shots. I do think Forget Me Not is the greatest one shot. I mean, I'm going to say it now again. If you've never played the scenario Forget Me Not in Call of Cthulhu, it has everything you want from a Call of Cthulhu adventure. It is non-linear. It is brutal. It destroys your sanity. There are multiple ways to win. And it is absolutely disgustingly brutal.
Yeah, I picked up a Call of Cthulhu scenario. One of the few ones I actually picked up that, because usually I homebrew. But I'm like, I'll buy this one. It looks good. And I read through it. I'm like, somebody tricked me into buying an Arctic survival simulator game.
The Mountains of Madness. Yeah.
Oh no, it's not Mountains of Madness.
Oh no! So
it's a modern scenario that takes place in the 80s, and the players. And this isn't a spoiler. The players play a group of oil company workers who are flying out to a pumping station to find out why it's gone offline.
Oh, okay.
There's a puppy on camera.
Yes, hello puppy. Whoa.
Let's pay attention to the puppy.
I think someone wants to go for a walk.
She
Sounds
is.
like
Yeah,
it.
I do. Thanks for noticing, Emmanuel.
Here we go.
We've been watching you do the pee-pee dance there, Bear.
Bear go walkies.
A direct question for Bear.
I'm interested in the full opinion regarding the distaste for campaigns. My moniker before the WotC bullshit earlier in the year was Forever DM. When I play, I have interest for maximum 4 or 5 sessions, and then I've lost all interest in anything, and I'm bored. Sadly, one of my players decided to run us through Descent into Avernus.
Oh, God.
By the 8th or 9th session, we were still running around fucking Baldur's Gate, opening doors and getting clue, and I was so fucking bored.
That's such a poorly written adventure anyways.
And it's not his fault. It was his first time ever as a DM, and we did everything we could to encourage him. But Jesus, at one point, I'm like, I can't keep doing this anymore. I'm sorry. I'm going to start sabotaging the game just to make it more fun.
So Bear, I feel you. And
so you're not interested in badly written campaigns.
Well,
no, I'm just not interested in playing long term. I like a nice short in and out, get it done.
Get out of there.
How about serial campaigns? How about the same character you play through a story arc, and then if something's interesting and the GM comes up with something cool to continue, would you reprise the role of a character?
Yeah, if we had like a nice break between them, absolutely.
Kind of doing it the Japanese TV style as opposed to the American TV style, where the Japanese are like, here's a story, it's done. Oh, you really liked it? Here's another story. Rather than the Americans are like,
hey, that was
we're on to the 12th season of the show where we've defeated the end of the world 5 times.
Well, I think that's, talk about high level campaigns again. I like serials a lot better for that very reason. Is you don't have to feel like you're advancing super quickly, but you don't feel like your characters are stagnant.
Problem with serials though is you often end up feeling like I've been playing this character forever and I'm not going anywhere and I'm not really doing anything and this game means nothing.
Oh, see, I don't feel that way with serials. I don't feel that way with serials.
Yeah, I feel about sandbox campaigns there, Eli.
Well, all I'm going to do is I'm like, look, I can play this one and I'll come back in like a month and we'll play another session and I don't feel obligated to play immediately and make every session and everything else. Like I can make 2 or 3 sessions. I can do that. But after a while, I'm like,
what you want is an open table game, not necessarily a serialized game.
No. The Reign of Terror was serialized. That's the best way to describe it, right, John?
Yeah. Well, it was 2 scenarios that were split by 5 years in terms of time. Each scenario was about 3 or 4 sessions in length, typically. You took a little bit longer over that first scenario than I expected, but it didn't matter. And the 2 scenarios were were separate, but had links between. They could be run entirely separately. You could complete it. You could just run the one scenario and just be done with it, because they were separate stories, but there were little connections you could throw in.
It was like playing 24, for each season. It's like, oh, here's your one day or whatever, 1 week of playing, and then 5 years later you play again with the same characters. So yes. Yeah. So that's what I mean by when you talk about serials, is that there's a big gap in between those. And I'm okay with that. It's like, oh, okay, well, what happened in between with those characters? Oh, okay, so-and-so did this. This happened in the world. Great.
The French Revolution happened in this case.
Oh, I think that Pressy just, didn't get his love. So that's what I was thinking.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Get his love. Poor Pressy. Poor Pressy.
Look at the ball.
Someday I'll finish my transatlantic crossing Call of Cthulhu scenario, but that's a long one.
Nerdy Ogre's arrival here has reminded me that I do need to add an exclamation mark Nerdy Ogre command to chat, which basically says I turn up 3 minutes before the stream is about to end, because he does it every single week.
He must work later, but
he usually comes on my stream after, so it's always nice to see him over there for a good.
That's fair enough.
Thanks, Nerdy.
So I think that Bear would kind of enjoy that, and that's the way I feel. Is there is dropping.
Bear would kind of enjoy what? What would Bear kind of enjoy?
Those really short. Hey, can you make it 2 or 3 weekends and that's it, and then you never have to play that again or the same character?
And even then, I don't want to do that too often. Thank you.
Yeah, that's my point. That's the way I like it too.
I'm not a player.
You're not making it easy for us to find the perfect game for you.
I don't want you to. I don't want.
I'm
you
more of a GM too, Bear. So I'm right there
man.
with you. I'm a forever GM by choice.
Okay. The
and
only
preference.
campaign I ever had fun in was a Star Trek campaign run in high school, which sadly now I can never play Star Trek because the only person who runs Star Trek the way I like is that guy who none of us talk to anymore because he's now a cokehead piece of shit, or me. And therefore I don't enjoy playing Star Trek with other people. It's just the way it is. Second was the first Torg campaign I ever played in, where I played a sorcerer who had one spell called Foe Blast, which did damage to everybody within a radius and a lot of fucking damage. And when they kept bitching about it, I would continually tell them, it says wrong, yeah, you just have to submit to me. So if you just submit to me, you won't take any damage. So, you should submit to me. And they were like, you're fucking evil. I'm not evil. I'm just opportunistic. And I'm going to go Foe Blast. And, it was so much fun because I didn't have to fucking subscribe to their bullshit gung-ho Boy Scout, let's go get the bad guy mentality, but I still went on the adventures and helped them, but I got to be me, and it was fun. Otherwise, every game I ever see these days is a fucking sandbox or a never-ending goddamn door opener, and those are just interminable.
Never-ending story.
I was just thinking,
Okay, everybody's singing. It's time for Geek to Pumpkin.
I don't know if you all know, but it was Eli's birthday a day or two ago.
Yeah, on the 4th.
Yeah. Happy belated.
What makes you 53?
Happy birthday
actually 52
to
now.
Elf Bait 3 days ago. Happy birthday to Elf Date for
Elf
3
Date?
days ago.
Elf
Elf
Date?
Bait.
What the hell's Elf Date?
Elf Bait.
It's 2 days
playing
ago
Elf Quest,
because
haven't
it
you?
was on the
You haven't
4th.
even
Today's
noticed.
the 6th, man. Did you lose a
No.
day?
No,
That's right. You're in England.
I'm in England. It's past midnight here now.
Past midnight for him, yeah.
Come on, Beans.
No,
And Beans.
yeah,
makes
it
a
was-
drink for everybody who was watching.
I've been saying 52 for a while. I've just been rounding my age up, so I'm officially 52.
Are you the oldest one here?
No, I'm 53.
He's got me by a year.
Okay, so is anyone younger than 50 here?
The
No.
cat.
Yeah, the
Beans
cat's dog.
is 1 year old.
Ophelia is younger than 50.
So
The dog
if
is
you've,
16 months.
if you've enjoyed our stream, it's because you enjoy listening to people who are between the ages of 50 and 53. We are a very, very narrow niche in terms of the demographics because we are all old grognards from a certain era, born between very close years. But it has come
Very
to
diverse demographic.
Very.
yeah, very, very. Anyway, it has gone past midnight, and going past midnight means it is, I'm afraid, pumpkin hour. and it's when my head becomes even fatter than it already is.
Don't
And
feed
bolder.
John.
So, before my headphones explode from my fat head, Daniel, you are here. Hello, Daniel. Hello, Daniel. You've
Yeah,
not
he
chimed in
pooped
before.
in early in the stream from my channel, I think.
I didn't see that. Sorry, Daniel. I missed your comment, but yeah, I know you're of a similar age to us as well. But I think that does need you do have your own chat command, because you may or may not be aware that on a Friday night, Daniel becomes Kelsey. So I will never stop finding that amusing. But yeah, it is time to end the stream. And I want to thank everybody who has been involved in my stream for just, I'm saying my stream, it's our stream because it is a shared one, isn't it? You got paid tonight, didn't you, Mage? Which is wonderful. All Ones was very kind to you.
All Ones was very nice to me. Yes. Thank
It
you
was
again, All
indeed.
Ones. I will,
But we're gonna go around just to do our channel shilling, apart from Omanal, because I just need to remind people. Omanal has his own comment on the channel. It's not something you said, Nerdy Ogre. It's because it's midnight here in Britain, and I need to be up for work in the morning. Omanal is a channel whore. He gets in on everybody else's fun.
RPGs.
There's that British use of the English language that is just so.
Well, and
To the point.
Just about any game with anyone almost. So,
So shill your channel, and we're going to start with whoever turned up first. And I always add people in the order they arrived. So, Elfbait, you were the early bird. Off you go.
The channel is Elfbait with an associated Discord and a Facebook group, both of the same name. I stream on Sundays mostly this week, I should say, because time has no meaning anymore. I streamed on Monday, so that was different. But for the most part, it's just the live stream on Sundays. Hopefully, I'll start getting some more games run. But yeah, Discord community and the live stream on Sunday.
Good stuff.
And then I show up here.
And you focus on topics that we don't tend to cover here, because you tend to cover more sort of sci-fi, cartoony sort of things.
I'm very diverse in my gaming desires and experience. So yes, if you like everything from old science fiction games to Star Wars to how to game G.I. Joe to a role-playing game about playing small woodland creatures, I'll talk about just about everything. So
okay, Mage.
I am Sean. I am the creator of Mage's Musing, hosted by Archmage Merlinster Gandaldor, the wizened old puppet. I do game recaps.
Wizened?
Wizened, yes.
I thought you Canadians lent more towards the English style. Wizened.
We're a hybrid.
Wizened.
Let them believe whatever they want.
I thought wizened is what you do to a tree when you have to go pee.
Yes, exactly.
No. Wizened is the word.
I wizened all over the dungeon.
Yeah, that's right.
Wise.
Oh, listen myself.
Anyway.
Keep going. Anyway, sure.
Anyway, so yes, I do game recaps. I do theory crafting. I do general silliness. That's my tagline. Come check me out at Mage's Musings. I'm closing in on my 1100 number.
Wow.
When is your next video dropping?
Probably next week. I had hoped to get some stuff done this week, but as you can see, all the dogs now here with a tug of war rope. Look at this. It's making demands of my time. So back to normal next week. I might try to squeeze in a short tonight or tomorrow, but even then, that's kind of hard to edit.
The perils of the border collie.
But I've got more recaps on the way. I want to catch up on. I just posted episode 19. I'm working on 20. The script's already done. I just got to record it. And I'm up to 27 in terms of how far I'm behind. So I want to get that done by the end of October. I will be running tables at the Dungeon Ministers Cleric Con in early November.
Oh, that's right.
Very
That's
cool.
coming up.
Excellent. But unfortunately, it's about 4,000 miles from where I live, so
Start
I
swimming.
can't be there.
Just
Start
swim.
swimming, yes,
The
yes.
tyranny of distance didn't stop the Cavaliers, sir.
Hey, it
Right.
didn't stop the Norse. You can make it.
Now, Bear, you normally highlight the fact that me and you don't agree on things, but tonight we agreed on the first
So many
things.
things.
We agreed on so many things tonight. So
So
off
many
you
things we
go.
agreed on. I feel like we should be brothers. All right,
Absolutely.
so I'm going to do something different than what I normally do. I'm actually going to talk about my channel. It's BearGenX GM, really easy to find. That's right, cat hair in my mouth because of these two fucking animals shedding. I talk a lot of shit, mostly live. I sometimes do videos on topics, but mostly live. Talk a lot of shit, run games. In about 50 minutes time, we'll be going live with the Four Color Cafe, which is a Wednesday night event. Tonight we're talking about GM styles because someone decided to take me to task for not running the game the way they wanted. So I thought we should discuss things like this. That's much better. And tomorrow morning I might do a coffee with Bear. So if you're up early and you want to stop by for an hour and talk shit while I drink coffee and hate my life, you're more than welcome to join in. I have the channel, the Discord, Facebook group, and a Patreon, which is active again this month. And oh yeah, because Sean mentioned his, I'll mention mine. I am literally one subscriber away from 1,600. I'm at $15.99. It's insane. It's crazy.
You've accelerated.
Somebody
past me.
subscribe. God damn it.
In the last 2 months, you've accelerated past me.
Or don't subscribe. I don't give a fuck.
You didn't give a fuck. You wouldn't have brought it up.
I brought it up because you brought up yours, and I just wanted to show off that I'm better than you.
In the last
It's
2
a
months, you
Toronto
have
Montreal thing.
in the last 2 months, Bear, you have accelerated past me in fine style. I will say.
Well, listen, it's I go up and down. My subscribers go up and go down because I don't censor myself, and I don't give a shit. I don't care.
At Elfbait, we don't talk about subscribers.
Yeah. If you don't like me, don't subscribe. You like me, subscribe. Either way, I'm still going to sleep in the same bed tonight.
That's true. So, Omanal, why don't you have a channel?
Yeah, why don't you have a fucking channel, man? I want to go there.
Because I usually put on my boy's videos on my channel so his mother can see what he's been doing when it's away. That's part of it. The other part is not that I actually have a good paying job. I don't have to. No, I'm just actually part of it just comes down to time. Is if I was going to try really creating a channel, you have to devote a lot. And I really come on here because I enjoy talking to you guys and realizing both my weaknesses and thoughts. So it's fun to actually get the good old gray matter going about things that don't involve people trying to screw other people. So those are always helpful. And when we start hearing things, you're like, oh, I wish I had known that when I was playing when I was 20 or 15 or 12 or 8.
Yeah, like everything Sean says about AD&D, that was a thing.
I mean, a lot of that stuff is you're just like, oh, it's exciting for some of those. It's good to talk to John about these. And otherwise, how would I meet some of you interesting people sometime in the future?
You meet the most interesting people.
Damn it, I was said we heard Elfbait, we don't talk about our subscribers, but oddly enough, right now I have one subscriber for every video I have on the channel. 167.
Wow.
Nice.
Ooh.
I've reached subscriber video parity.
As long as it's still below.
If you are here, you will know that I'm the old geek. This, even though it's being shared out, simul-streamed across all these other people's channels, this is my midweek stream. I own it. I'm the boss. Oh, you probably couldn't tell because I do tend to sit here and just go, yes, just talk. But I'm the old geek. I started off by reviewing AD&D Adventures because I started watching a lot of YouTube and thinking, why are there so many people who are doing these very, very dull flip page throughs and not actually talking about why the adventure's good, why the adventure's bad? They just go, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool, for an hour. So I thought, right, what YouTube needs is 10 to 15 minutes of digestible, easy to understand format, very accessible reviews of AD&D modules because there weren't any. I got in, and there was a niche, and it seems to have worked. And since then, I've spread out and gone. Boop. But
John does a great job, all except for Tomb of Horrors in his reviews. No,
that's what I say. But one thing that has become, and as soon as I discovered Discord, I thought, right, this is a great way of getting people who are like-minded together. And I love what my Discord has become. In fact, saying my Discord, it's wrong because it's our Discord now. We play games every Saturday. We start playing games at 2 p.m. British time, which is, I know it's various times in America because your clocks are wrong, and Canada and wherever. And we finish playing games about 11 p.m. British time. There's usually 2 sessions. We're playing OSE, we're playing MERP. I run Call of Cthulhu games from time to time, mostly on a Thursday night. And if you're in chat now and you want to play one of these games, you are more than welcome to come along and join in. Because if you're watching this nonsense we're talking now, you're the sort of person that I want to be playing games with. Because you get it. You get it. You understand us. My Discord is designed to be a place where it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. If you just want to play games in an old school, fun way, drop in, drop out, very casual, then it's there for you. So there's my shill. And I nearly went viral yesterday. Does having plus 22 subscribers and 1,200 views from one video in its first 12 hours count as being viral in old school D&D terms?
It's not viral. It's more like a mild cold.
It's allergenic.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's an autoimmune response. That's what
it's a minor irritant.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that. Someone else too. I'm at 1601 now. I just checked after you typed that. So thanks. Thank you so much. Hope I don't drive you off. I will. But,
anyway, I was proud of that video because that's 5 times my normal views. So that was brilliant. And thank you if anyone's subscribers who got to seeing that and just joined in and come along and thought, this guy is talking my language. It might not be sense, but it's my language anyway.
Anyone get the impression it's late and John's been drinking?
Yeah, that's true.
Because that was our wine on saying goodnight at Christmas right there. That's what that was.
Yeah, I was wearing an onion on my belt.
That bottle of wine at the start of
that bottle at the time.
That bottle at the start of the stream was full, and there's now it's ready for a ship. Anyway, thank you all, everyone who's been in chat tonight. And thank you, Baron G-Rock. You've just subscribed to me by the looks of things. Thank you. So thank you all for joining in, making the stream entertaining, fun. Thank you, all of you who've been live on the stream. Thank you, Saxius, as well, for being here earlier. Saxius was one of the people who first joined me on a live stream, and I think he's great. He is so... What's the word for Saxius?
Danish?
We're one or 2 sentences away from I love you, man.
He is his own definition.
Seriously.
He is.
Like, we're almost at the point where my bouncer instincts are kicking in to go, all right, man, you know what? Maybe we should get you somewhere to sit down.
Call your cab, buddy.
Call the man a cab.
No, but I mean,
see, that shows how old we are. Get this man a cab. No,
he's a great DM. He's a great DM. He's very imaginative, but he has that necessary killer instinct for an old school game.
He has that gravitas with his foreign accent.
Absolutely. But he was one of and Eli was one of the ones who joined me early on as well, weren't you?
So I don't keep track of such things, but I believe.
Then Omanal dived in, then Mage started diving in. Bears just piggybacked on it.
So
really, I'm just a joiner.
I think that's when you started having everyone come on, and then we all said hi, and I think that's yeah.
But anyhow, thank you everybody, and I'm going to end this stream here. Good night,
everyone.
Night, folks.
Go watch Baron.